In the depths of history, there are secrets so strange, so unsettling, that they defy all explanation. Ancient civilizations, their knowledge and power, seem almost beyond comprehension. From mysterious stone formations to lost cities buried beneath time, these archaeological enigmas suggest something far greater than what we have been taught. What was left behind, intentionally or by accident? Could these relics hold the key to lost knowledge, or perhaps something far darker? Join us as we uncover bizarre ancient mysteries that will chill you to the bone. Are you ready to discover the unexplainable? Nestled among the rolling hills of Palestine, the ancient site of Tel Yokneam stands as a silent sentinel to a distant past. This sprawling archaeological mound, a remnant of a once thriving city, has witnessed countless centuries unfold, yet its secrets remain largely veiled in mystery. It's a place where the earth itself seems to whisper stories of a civilization that once knew the land intimately, crafting its future with stones and symbols that, even today, provoke awe and curiosity. The most intriguing aspect of Tel Yokneam, however, is not merely its strategic position or its well-documented history as a Canaanite city dating back to the late Bronze Age, but rather the enigmatic megalithic structures scattered across its surface. These megaliths, massive stones, some weighing several tons, seem to defy conventional understanding. They stand in strange formations, with no clear explanation as to why they were placed here or what purpose they served. Their sheer size and the precision with which they were arranged suggest a level of engineering skill that goes beyond what we expect from a civilization living more than 3,000 years ago. Mainstream archaeology has offered a few plausible theories. Some suggest that these megaliths were part of defensive structures, perhaps remnants of a fortified city wall or a ceremonial gateway marking the boundaries of an ancient city. Others propose that they could have had a religious or astronomical significance, aligning with celestial events or serving as markers for ancient rituals. These theories, though, only begin to scratch the surface of what might truly lie hidden beneath the soil of Tel Yokneam. Yet, as with many ancient sites, there are details that defy easy explanation. Some of the stones at Tel Yokneam are not only large, but they have been meticulously shaped, almost unnaturally so. They don't simply sit in place. They seem to have been deliberately crafted, their edges smoothed and fitted together in a way that suggests an advanced understanding of both stonework and the forces of nature. Was this the work of an ancient culture with extraordinary knowledge of geometry and engineering, or could these structures have had a purpose that we still don't fully grasp? As we move away from conventional explanations, we begin to encounter theories that enter the realm of speculation. Some have pointed to the megaliths at Tel Yokneam as evidence of a lost civilization, one that possessed technologies far beyond those of their contemporaries. Could these stones have been part of some larger, now forgotten infrastructure? Perhaps an energy source or a means of communicating with the stars? Others suggest that these ancient structures could be remnants of a long-lost tradition of building, a connection to civilizations that have left no other trace. And then, there are those who wonder if these megaliths were not simply the product of human hands, but the work of something, or someone, beyond our understanding. Could ancient knowledge have come from sources that are now beyond our reach? Could the builders of Tel Yokneam have had access to wisdom that has since been lost to time? Despite the many excavations and studies conducted over the years, no one has definitively answered these questions. The megaliths at Tel Yokneam continue to resist full explanation, standing as they have for millennia in their quiet, imposing stillness. They raise more questions than they answer, and each new discovery only seems to add to the mystery. What then are we to make of these stone giants? Are they merely the remnants of a long-forgotten people, or do they hold clues to something far older, far deeper than we have yet begun to understand? The mystery of Tel Yokneam persists, inviting further exploration and perhaps, in time, a revelation that will reshape our understanding of the past. For now, the stones remain, silent witnesses to a time lost to history, waiting to tell their story to those who dare to listen. As we continue our journey through the enigmatic corners of ancient history, we arrive at a site that, while perhaps lesser known, carries with it an unsettling mystery that refuses to be easily solved. Kalavasos-Tenta. Situated in the heart of Cyprus, near the village of Kalavasos, this archaeological site is as intriguing as it is perplexing. The remains of an ancient settlement dating back to the early Bronze Age stand in quiet defiance of the many theories that attempt to explain their purpose. The site is a place of contradictions, a place where answers slip just out of reach, like the wind whispering through the remains of forgotten stone walls. The first thing that strikes you about Kalavasos-Tenta is its stark beauty. The sun-bleached ruins of the settlement rise from the earth, their once pristine stonework now weathered by centuries of exposure. The site itself covers a large area, with a series of interconnected buildings and open spaces that suggest a community with complex social structures. What is most striking, though, is the way the settlement seems to have been abandoned. Not gradually, but suddenly, almost overnight. The buildings, many of which are still intact enough to reveal their original design, seem abandoned mid-use, as if the inhabitants had simply vanished without a trace. Mainstream archaeology offers some theories to explain this sudden disappearance. The site is thought to have been a flourishing settlement in the early Bronze Age, approximately 2500 BC. Excavations have uncovered remnants of pottery, tools, and other artifacts, suggesting that it was a place of daily activity, trading, farming, and possibly even religious or ceremonial practices. Some experts believe that Kalavasos-Tenta was likely abandoned due to a natural disaster, such as an earthquake or a flood, or perhaps due to a slow decline in resources that made the area unsustainable. Yet, while these explanations seem plausible, they don't fully account for the eerie stillness that hangs over the site. The suddenness of the abandonment is what catches the eye of those who delve deeper into the mystery of Kalavasos-Tenta. There are no signs of conflict, no evidence of a violent takeover or raid. The walls of the buildings are still standing, and many of the objects left behind appear to have been left in haste, but not in panic. The absence of human remains is also curious. There are no signs of mass graves or hurried burials, which one would expect from a catastrophic event. Instead, it's as though the people of Kalavasos-Tenta simply vanished, leaving behind a city frozen in time. This strange, unexplained disappearance has led some researchers to speculate that the settlement was not abandoned due to natural causes, but rather due to something far more mysterious. Could it have been the result of an unknown force, one that we still don't fully understand? Some have suggested that the settlement's abrupt end could be tied to some form of ritualistic departure, an event or practice so integral to the culture that it remains unrecorded in the historical record. Could there have been a mass exodus or a ritualistic relocation, perhaps in response to some kind of prophecy or spiritual belief? Others have pointed to the surrounding landscape of Kalavasos-Tenta as a clue. The area, while seemingly remote today, is rich with natural resources, especially copper, which was a key element in the Bronze Age. Could the settlement have been part of a larger trade network, and its inhabitants forced to leave due to shifting political or economic circumstances? Or was Kalavasos-Tenta's end part of a broader regional phenomenon, where multiple settlements disappeared around the same time, leaving no trace of their existence? As with many ancient mysteries, the most intriguing theories move beyond the realm of the purely historical. There are whispers, among some who study the ancient world, that Kalavasos-Tenta might not have been a typical settlement at all. Some have even suggested that the site could have been part of a civilization with knowledge far ahead of its time. Was this settlement connected to other ancient cultures with advanced technology? Could its sudden disappearance be linked to the collapse of a forgotten network of ancient peoples, one that reached across the Mediterranean and beyond? Some have even raised more speculative ideas, suggesting that the site might be connected to phenomena that are still not fully understood by modern science. Was Kalavasos-Tenta part of a much larger network of ancient sites that harnessed some kind of energy or power? Could the settlement have been abandoned because its inhabitants had discovered something so profound, so dangerous, that they chose to leave it behind? Perhaps in their departure they left a message, one that we have yet to decipher. The artifacts uncovered at Kalavasos-Tenta give little away. Tools, pottery, and the remnants of everyday life have been recovered in abundance, yet none of these objects offer direct clues as to why the site was abandoned. It's the silence of the site itself that speaks most loudly. There is a profound sense of stillness here, as though the land itself is holding its breath, waiting for someone to uncover the truth. The absence of a clear explanation leaves the door open for a range of possibilities, each theory more intriguing than the last. Despite all the research and excavation, the mystery of Kalavasos-Tenta remains unsolved. What could have caused the sudden abandonment of such a sophisticated settlement? Was it a natural disaster, an economic shift, or something far more enigmatic? The answers, if they exist, remain buried beneath the earth, guarded by centuries of silence. The more we learn about Kalavasos-Tenta, the more we realize how much remains to be discovered. And as the years pass, the questions grow only more profound. What truly happened to the people of Kalavasos-Tenta, and what knowledge did they carry with them, leaving behind only ruins and the echoes of their lost civilization? As we journey deeper into the heart of ancient mysteries, we find ourselves drawn to the shores of the Caribbean, where the Tulum Ruins stand on the edge of time. Perched high on a cliff, overlooking the turquoise waters of the Mexican coast, Tulum seems like a place suspended between two worlds, one foot in the ancient past and the other in the endless present. The ruins themselves are a blend of natural beauty and man-made mystery, their stone structures weathered by centuries of wind and salt, yet still standing as a testament to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of the people who once inhabited them. Tulum, known as Zama, or the City of Dawn, by the ancient Maya, is a site unlike any other in the ancient world. While many Maya cities were constructed inland, Tulum was built directly on the edge of the sea, its towering walls offering both protection and a powerful connection to the ocean. The site flourished during the post-classic period, around the 13th century A.D., a time when the Maya civilization had already reached its zenith and was beginning to experience decline in other parts of Mesoamerica. Yet, at Tulum, the structures, temples, palaces, and intricate murals speak of a city still vibrant and engaged with its cultural, religious, and commercial traditions. One of the most striking features of Tulum is the grandeur of its well-preserved walls. Encircling the city, these walls served both as a defense against potential invaders and as a symbolic boundary between the sacred space of the city and the world beyond. Inside the walls, a series of buildings are arranged with a meticulous sense of order, their placement offering clues to the city's careful design. Among these, the Temple of the Seven Dolls stands out as a focal point of mystery. Named for the 7 small effigies found inside, this temple is thought to have had a ceremonial purpose, possibly linked to the rising sun or the worship of the goddess of the moon. But what truly draws people to this temple is the fact that it appears to have been built with an uncanny alignment, one that mirrors the sunrise on certain days of the year. Was this alignment purely for practical purposes? Or did the Maya possess a deeper understanding of celestial events that we have only begun to uncover? For years, scholars have debated the significance of the Temple of the Seven Dolls, but the question remains: Why were these effigies placed there, and what role did the temple truly serve? Some believe that the dolls represent the 7 celestial beings associated with the Maya creation myth, while others argue that they could be connected to an ancient ritual of sacrifice or worship. The answer, though, may lie not in the effigies themselves, but in their placement and the way they seem to connect the earthly world with the heavens above. Yet, the enigma of Tulum does not stop with its temples. The city's location, right at the edge of the sea, raises another perplexing question. Why build such an important center of culture and religion in such a vulnerable spot? The Maya were known for their advanced knowledge of astronomy, agriculture, and architecture, yet this coastal site appears to be strategically placed with an almost spiritual purpose. Could Tulum's location have had more significance than simply its proximity to trade routes and the sea? Was the city's positioning on the edge of the world meant to symbolize the boundary between the known and the unknown, between the earthly realm and the divine? As archaeologists continue to study the ruins, there are hints that suggest Tulum was not just a center for trade and worship, but a place of powerful ritual significance. The temple murals found throughout the site offer vivid depictions of gods, cosmic cycles, and celestial beings, reflecting the Maya belief in the interconnection between the natural world and the spiritual realm. Tulum may have served as a hub for esoteric practices, where knowledge of the cosmos and the forces of nature were carefully guarded and passed down through the generations. Was Tulum a place of pilgrimage, where people came to connect with the gods and seek answers to the great mysteries of the universe? And yet, despite the wealth of evidence that points to Tulum's cultural and spiritual importance, there is still much about the city that remains shrouded in mystery. The fact that Tulum was never truly abandoned, but instead slowly faded into obscurity after the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century, raises questions about its final days. Why did the city continue to stand in silence, its temples left unlooted and its walls left to crumble long after the Maya civilization had begun to unravel? Could Tulum have held on to secrets that the world was not yet ready to understand? There are those who believe that the city's decline may not have been purely due to external forces like disease or conquest, but that it may have been the result of an internal crisis, a loss of knowledge or a shift in spiritual practices that led the inhabitants to leave their sacred city behind. Was there something about Tulum, its very layout and its connection to the cosmos, that made it impossible to sustain in a changing world? Or were the inhabitants of Tulum simply following the natural ebb and flow of time, abandoning the city when it no longer served the purpose it once did? Even more speculative theories suggest that Tulum may have been a center for rituals linked to the forces of nature, including the very forces that governed the rise and fall of civilizations. Could the Maya, with their deep understanding of astronomy and the cycles of the stars, have understood something about time and existence that we have lost to history? Was Tulum's sudden decline the result of some unknown cosmic event, or perhaps a consequence of the city's ritualistic practices, a sign that the city had fulfilled its purpose and was destined to fade into legend? The mystery of Tulum, like so many ancient sites, remains unsolved. It stands today as a reminder of a civilization that was far more complex and far-reaching than we often give it credit for. As we stand before the ruins, gazing out over the ocean, we are left with the lingering question: what truths have yet to be uncovered beneath the stones of Tulum? And what might the city's ancient guardians still have to reveal if we only knew where to look? As we continue our exploration of ancient sites that continue to mystify us, we find ourselves in the high deserts of central Arizona, where one of the most fascinating archaeological enigmas of North America stands: Montezuma Castle. Rising dramatically against the rocky cliffs of Beaver Creek, this ancient structure is a marvel of engineering and a symbol of an ancient civilization that once thrived in this harsh, arid landscape. Yet, despite its imposing presence and the wealth of artifacts uncovered around it, Montezuma Castle's full history remains elusive, and the deeper questions surrounding its purpose and the people who built it still leave many of us in wonder. Montezuma Castle is not a castle at all, but rather a remarkable cliff dwelling built into the limestone cliffs of a small canyon. The site consists of multiple levels of living spaces, expertly constructed with stone and mortar and perched high above the valley floor. The structures themselves are remarkably well preserved, with the walls still standing tall after nearly 1,000 years. From a distance, the site almost appears like a collection of ancient windows carved into the rock, offering glimpses into a long-forgotten world. The beauty of the location is undeniable. The deep blue of the Arizona sky contrasts against the earthy tones of the cliffs, while the green of the surrounding vegetation provides a stark juxtaposition to the arid desert landscape. The site was built by the Sinagua people, an ancient Native American culture that inhabited this area between approximately 1100 and 1425 AD. The Sinagua were skilled farmers, craftsmen, and traders, and their choice of location for this cliff dwelling suggests a deep understanding of both natural resources and defense strategies. The structure is accessible only by narrow ledges, making it nearly impenetrable to potential invaders. It is believed that the Sinagua people used Montezuma Castle as a refuge, a place of safety in an unforgiving landscape. But why did they choose to build their homes so high up in the cliffs, rather than on the valley floor where they could have access to more resources and easier living conditions? Mainstream explanations often point to the natural defenses offered by the location. The high perch would have made it difficult for enemy tribes to reach the dwellings, providing a secure refuge from potential threats. However, the choice of such a remote, difficult-to-reach site raises more questions than it answers. Why go through the painstaking effort of building such a complex structure in a location that would require immense labor to access and maintain? The Sinagua were not a nomadic people, and their choice of a permanent residence in such a challenging location suggests a purpose far beyond mere defense. What did Montezuma Castle represent to the Sinagua? Was it a spiritual center, a place of refuge, or something else entirely? Theories abound, but few provide satisfying answers. Some archaeologists believe that the cliff dwellings were part of a larger network of similar structures, possibly connected by trade routes or shared cultural practices. These dwellings, scattered across the desert, may have formed a complex system of interconnected communities that relied on each other for protection and resources. Yet, despite extensive research, no definitive evidence has been found to suggest exactly how these communities functioned or what their true purpose was. Adding to the intrigue is the fact that Montezuma Castle is not the only cliff dwelling in the area. Numerous other similar structures, both in Arizona and neighboring regions, suggest a broader cultural tradition of cliff dwelling that extended well beyond the Sinagua. Were these structures part of a larger, pan-regional phenomenon? Or were they isolated examples of a unique Sinagua tradition, reflecting the distinct identity of this desert civilization? Some researchers have even speculated that these cliff dwellings might have been part of a much older, now lost civilization, one that left behind no written records and whose culture has been nearly erased from history. Could the Sinagua people have inherited this tradition from an even more ancient group? One whose knowledge of the land and its hidden forces was far more advanced than we are willing to acknowledge? Other, more speculative theories suggest that the location of Montezuma Castle, with its connection to the natural rock formations and the sky, may have had spiritual significance. The Sinagua, like many ancient cultures, had a deep reverence for the natural world, and their settlements often reflected a profound connection to the earth and the cosmos. Was Montezuma Castle built to align with certain celestial events? Did the placement of the dwelling have astronomical or symbolic meaning, tying the inhabitants to the rhythms of the stars, the sun, and the moon? Could this seemingly utilitarian dwelling have had a deeper ritualistic purpose? Perhaps a sacred site where the Sinagua conducted ceremonies or observed the heavens? Perhaps one of the most mysterious aspects of Montezuma Castle is the abrupt disappearance of the Sinagua people from the region around the time the site was abandoned. While the Sinagua did not vanish overnight, their decline was precipitous, and they gradually moved away from their cliff dwellings. What happened to them? The mainstream theory suggests a combination of factors: climate change, drought, and increased conflict with neighboring tribes. However, the rapid decline of such a sophisticated culture raises questions about the sustainability of their way of life. Was it simply the harsh desert environment that led to their decline, or was there something more significant? Perhaps a loss of knowledge, a spiritual or social upheaval that caused their civilization to fall. Some have proposed that the Sinagua were part of a much broader network of ancient cultures that shared knowledge and resources, and that the collapse of this network may have contributed to their disappearance. Others have even suggested that their departure from Montezuma Castle could have been part of a larger, deliberate retreat, perhaps a spiritual or ritualistic withdrawal from a world that had lost its balance. Could the Sinagua, in abandoning their homes, have been following a prophecy or abandoning a tradition that no longer served them? Montezuma Castle, with its striking beauty and its impenetrable mysteries, remains one of the most fascinating archaeological sites in North America. Despite decades of research and excavation, it continues to leave more questions than answers. As we stand before its towering walls, gazing up at the dwellings nestled in the cliffs, we are left to wonder, what were the Sinagua truly searching for when they built this remarkable site? And what secrets, perhaps even lost knowledge, still lie hidden in the walls of Montezuma Castle, waiting for those who dare to seek them? As we shift our focus to yet another ancient site, we travel to the heart of Palestine, where the remains of an enigmatic ancient city emerge from the soil, quietly challenging our understanding of history. Tel Kabri, a sprawling archaeological site nestled in the hills of the western Galilee, is a place of both remarkable discovery and lingering mystery. The site itself, with its layers of history piled upon one another, reveals fragments of a once thriving civilization, yet its true identity and purpose remain subjects of debate and intrigue. Standing before Tel Kabri, one is immediately struck by the contrast between the vibrant natural landscape and the ancient ruins that sit quietly among it. The lush greenery of the surrounding hills and the peaceful flow of nearby streams seem to contrast with the ruins' solemn reminder of the past. The remains of a large Canaanite city, the most prominent feature of which is a sprawling palace complex, offer a window into a world that thrived more than 3,500 years ago. The palace, with its expansive courtyards, intricate wall paintings, and impressive storage rooms, suggests a culture rich in art, trade, and sophisticated governance. Yet the palace's purpose and the larger significance of the site remain unresolved. Tel Kabri is thought to have been an important center during the Middle Bronze Age, around 1700 BC, and perhaps even earlier. Its strategic position, nestled between the Mediterranean Sea and the inland regions, would have made it a key player in the trade networks that crisscrossed the ancient world. The evidence of such connections is visible in the artifacts uncovered at the site: pottery from Egypt, luxury goods from Mesopotamia, and the remnants of sophisticated tools and weapons. It is clear that Tel Kabri was not a small, isolated village, but a hub of commerce, culture, and political power. But what made this site so significant to the peoples who lived here? One of the most striking features of Tel Kabri is its well-preserved palace, which offers insight into the complexity of the society that inhabited the city. The building's size and the quality of its construction suggest that it was a place of great importance. But as archaeologists have uncovered the remains of its grand halls and elegant frescoes, They have also found something unexpected, a peculiar array of murals, which depict scenes that seem to suggest a culture more cosmopolitan than originally thought. The paintings, depicting people in exotic attire and strange animals, have led some researchers to suggest that Tel Kabri was not just a Canaanite center, but perhaps a melting pot of cultures. Was this an early example of cross-cultural exchange, or were these murals purely decorative, meant to show the opulence and grandeur of the ruling elite? The most famous discovery at Tel Kabri, however, was the discovery of a series of wine cellars beneath the palace. These well-preserved chambers, filled with large jars once used to store wine, have sparked a great deal of speculation. The sheer scale of the wine production facility found at the site suggests that it may have been a center for the production of luxury goods, specifically wine, which was highly prized in the ancient world. The presence of such extensive wine storage raises the question, could this have been an ancient winery of unparalleled scale? And what role did wine play in the social and political dynamics of the region? Was it used solely as a luxury item, or did it have deeper cultural and spiritual significance, perhaps in rituals or feasts? Yet, while the discovery of the wine cellars provides valuable insight into the economic importance of Tel Kabri, it also raises further questions. The scale and sophistication of the wine production suggest a society with advanced knowledge of agriculture and trade, but the abrupt decline of the city challenges the conventional understanding of its rise and fall. By the end of the 17th century BC, Tel Kabri was suddenly abandoned, seemingly without explanation. Archaeologists have found no evidence of violent destruction or warfare, and yet the palace and the surrounding city were left empty. Was it an internal collapse, the result of economic or political instability? Or could there have been an external force that led to the city's swift abandonment? Some researchers have suggested that the decline of Tel Kabri may have been linked to the shifting patterns of trade and politics in the region, particularly the rise of the Egyptian New Kingdom. The end of the Middle Bronze Age saw significant changes in the power dynamics of the ancient world, and Tel Kabri, which had flourished during a time of relative stability, may have simply been caught in the turbulence of this transition. The site's abandonment, then, could reflect a broader phenomenon, the fall of once powerful city-states as empires like Egypt and Mesopotamia grew stronger and reshaped the political landscape. Other theories, however, are more speculative, hinting at more mysterious explanations. Some suggest that the site's sudden decline might have been tied to a natural disaster, such as an earthquake or flooding, which could have devastated the city without leaving behind the typical signs of violent conflict. Others have posited that there could have been a more esoteric cause, perhaps a collapse of social or religious order that led the people of Tel Kabri to leave in mass exodus, abandoning not only their homes, but their entire way of life. What caused this rupture? Was it a gradual erosion of trust in the ruling elite, or something more profound, something beyond the earthly realm? Adding to the mystery of Tel Kabri is the question of its true significance in the wider context of the ancient Near East. While it is often classified as a Canaanite city, there are those who believe that the city may have had ties to other, even older cultures, perhaps even to the lost civilizations that predated the well-known empires of Egypt and Mesopotamia. Could the structures at Tel Kabri, with their sophisticated design and intricate artwork, be evidence of a deeper, older knowledge that has since been forgotten? Could the city have been a hub of ancient wisdom, where a culture much older than the Canaanites once thrived? The remains of Tel Kabri, with its faded murals and empty wine cellars, continue to offer tantalizing glimpses into the past. But despite years of excavation and study, the true nature of this site, and the reasons for its sudden decline, remain elusive. As we stand before its ruins, we are left with more questions than answers. What was the true role of this city in the ancient world? What knowledge did its people possess, and what might have led them to leave so abruptly? The mystery of Tel Kabri lingers, a puzzle waiting to be solved, inviting us to look deeper and wonder. What still lies buried beneath the earth, hidden from our understanding? As we leave behind the hills of Palestine and venture eastward, we arrive at one of the most significant archaeological sites in the ancient world, the royal tombs of Ur. Nestled in the southern part of modern-day Iraq, near the banks of the Euphrates River, this ancient burial site is a gateway to the distant past. It was here, in the ancient Sumerian city of Ur, that some of the most exquisite and puzzling artifacts in history were uncovered. Artifacts that continue to fuel questions about the complexity and richness of ancient Sumerian culture. The royal tombs of Ur are a striking reminder of the opulence and power of the rulers who once governed this early civilization. The tombs themselves are not merely graves, but monumental structures designed to house the dead in a manner befitting royalty. They were unearthed in the early 20th century during a series of excavations led by the British archaeologist Sir Leonard Woolley. What he uncovered was nothing short of astonishing, a trove of treasure, including intricately designed jewelry, beautifully crafted ceremonial items, and the remains of a civilization that seemed to live in a world far more sophisticated than we might expect from such an early period in human history. The scale of the tombs and the grandeur of their contents left a profound mark on archaeological studies. Among the most notable discoveries were the remains of two mass graves, one of which contained over 70 individuals, seemingly sacrificed to accompany the royal dead. These sacrifices, some of which appeared to be high-ranking members of society, were buried alongside a rich array of items, from musical instruments to finely made weapons and elaborate garments. The sheer number of individuals buried in these tombs, and the apparent deliberate nature of their entombment, raises questions that still have no clear answers. Why were these individuals sacrificed? And what was the true nature of their relationship to the king or queen they accompanied? The most famous of the royal tombs of Ur is the tomb of Queen Puabi, whose burial chamber revealed a wealth of treasures unlike anything the ancient world had seen before. Inside her tomb, archaeologists uncovered a stunning array of gold jewelry inlaid with lapis lazuli and carnelian, as well as a headdress made of gold and precious stones. Puabi's tomb also contained a remarkable ceremonial chariot, as well as the remains of attendants who were clearly placed there as part of the burial ritual. The wealth and grandeur of Puabi's tomb suggest that she was a figure of great importance, perhaps even more so than we have been able to fully understand. Yet, despite the extraordinary treasures and the vivid portrayal of wealth and status, there is still an air of mystery surrounding these royal tombs. The manner in which the tombs were constructed and the sheer scale of the sacrifices challenge conventional explanations. Were these sacrifices merely a reflection of a ritualistic belief in an afterlife, or did they signify something more? Something tied to the political and religious power of the rulers of Ur? Some scholars speculate that the people buried with the royalty were not simply servants but had a more significant role, perhaps as individuals who were chosen to ensure the ruler's safe passage into the afterlife. Could these tombs, then, have been a means of cementing the ruler's power not only in life, but also in death, with the sacrifices symbolizing the ruler's eternal dominion over both life and death? In addition to the opulent treasures found within the tombs, there were other artifacts that hinted at the complexity of Sumerian society. The famous Standard of Ur, a rectangular panel adorned with scenes of war and peace, suggests a highly developed artistic culture, one that had a deep understanding of symbolism and narrative. The standard is often interpreted as a depiction of the duality of life in Sumer, war and peace, death and life, offering a glimpse into how the Sumerians viewed the world and their rulers' place in it. The presence of such items in the tombs raises more questions. Did these artifacts serve a religious function, or were they simply objects of luxury? Was the ruler of Ur's power symbolic of a much greater force, or did it merely reflect the political realities of the time? Even more puzzling is the mysterious origins of Ur itself. While it is well established that Ur was a thriving city-state during the 3rd millennium BC, the true origins of the Sumerian civilization remain unclear. How did a people living in the Fertile Crescent develop such advanced technology, writing systems, and architectural styles? Some have suggested that the Sumerians could have had knowledge that was passed down from earlier, now lost civilizations. Others wonder if the Sumerians were influenced by a culture much older than their own, one that predated the rise of Ur and its powerful kings. Could the mysteries of the royal tombs of Ur be tied to a forgotten history, one that we have yet to uncover? The sheer scale of the royal tombs also raises the possibility of a deeper connection to other ancient cultures and regions. Some have speculated that Ur's wealth and influence were not solely the result of local resources and trade, but could have been part of a larger network of ancient civilizations that stretched across the ancient Near East. Were the rulers of Ur, and by extension the people buried in the royal tombs, part of a larger movement, one that spanned centuries and influenced the very course of history? Could there have been interactions, both peaceful and violent, between Ur and other cultures that we have yet to fully comprehend? As we stand before the remains of these majestic tombs, surrounded by the artifacts of a long-lost civilization, we are left with many unanswered questions. The wealth and sophistication of the royal tombs of Ur suggest a people far more advanced than we often give them credit for, but the deeper truths behind these tombs remain elusive. Was the power and grandeur of Ur simply a reflection of its time, or did it represent something far more profound, something lost to history? What remains hidden in the shadows of these royal burials, waiting to be discovered? The answers, if they exist, may still lie buried in the sands of Ur, waiting for those who seek them. As we journey further into the ancient landscapes of Britain, we come upon a site that rises from the undulating hills like a sentinel from the past, the Caradoc Hillfort. Located in the Shropshire Hills, this ancient fortification stands as a testament to the enigmatic cultures that once thrived in the British Isles, long before the arrival of the Romans. Caradoc, with its sweeping views over the surrounding valleys and its imposing ramparts, is a place that speaks to a different time, one where power and protection were defined by the landscape itself. The hill fort is a remarkable structure, sitting atop a steep hill that offers a natural vantage point, its slopes cut by deep defensive ditches. As you approach the site, it's easy to see why this location was chosen for such a stronghold. From its summit, one can see for miles in every direction, a strategic position that would have been invaluable for monitoring any movement in the surrounding areas. The sight of the large earthworks and the remnants of wooden or stone ramparts evokes a sense of ancient defense, a place where people once gathered to protect themselves from invaders or perhaps even rival tribes. Despite its imposing appearance, the true purpose of Caradoc remains a subject of debate. Archaeological excavations at the site have revealed a complex structure, fortifications, gates, and what appear to be living quarters, but no evidence of a large settlement within the walls. Instead, the site seems to have been used intermittently over a long period, its function perhaps more symbolic or ceremonial than purely military. Some scholars have suggested that it could have been a tribal center or a seat of power for a local leader, possibly even the legendary Caradoc, a figure from Welsh mythology and history, whose name the hill fort bears. But even this connection to legend offers more questions than answers. Was Caradoc merely the base of a powerful chieftain, or did it serve a more spiritual or ritualistic purpose? The lack of definitive evidence leaves us to wonder whether it was a place of governance, a refuge in times of war, or something more mysterious. The legend of Caradoc, or Caradog, who is sometimes identified as a first-century British king, further deepens the mystery surrounding the site. While historical accounts mention a Caradoc who led the Britons in their resistance against the Romans, there is no conclusive evidence linking the Hillfort to this legendary figure. Instead, it seems possible that the Hillfort predates Roman contact, belonging to a much earlier era. This raises a fundamental question. If this site was not directly connected to Caradoc the warrior king, then why was it named after him? Could it be that the Hillfort was important long before the events of the Roman conquest, and that the legend of Caradoc merely borrowed its significance in later retellings? Interestingly, the Hillfort itself is part of a larger network of ancient sites in the region. The geography of the area, with its rolling hills and natural features, suggests that Caer Caradoc might have been one of many such sites that served as centers of control, perhaps linked by trade routes or shared cultural practices. Archaeological finds in the area point to an intricate network of interactions between various tribes and peoples, suggesting that Caer Caradoc was a node in a far-reaching system. But what drove these ancient cultures to choose such difficult-to-reach locations for their strongholds? Was it simply a desire for defense, or did these locations hold deeper cultural or spiritual meaning? As we delve deeper into the structure of Caer Caradoc, we begin to notice that the site's earthworks and defensive structures don't entirely align with typical Iron Age fortifications. Some of the ditch and rampart designs show signs of modifications that are not characteristic of standard defensive construction, suggesting that the builders might have had a more intricate understanding of landscape and structure than we have yet fully understood. Could these structures have had a more complex, perhaps symbolic role, embedded within the wider religious or cultural practices of the time? The Hillfort's isolation, with its focus on the natural world around it, hints at a connection between the people who built it and the land itself, something that goes beyond the utilitarian functions of defense or settlement. Theories regarding the site's purpose have ranged from practical explanations to more speculative ones. Some suggest that Caer Caradoc was a site of seasonal gatherings, a place where various tribes would come together for trade or ceremonial events. Others propose that it was a place for initiations, rites of passage, or even astronomical observance, with its positioning offering a clear view of the heavens. The alignment of the site with natural landmarks in the landscape only deepens this speculation. Could the people of Caer Caradoc have had an advanced understanding of astronomy or the cycles of nature, using their Hillfort not only as a place of physical defense, but as a spiritual sanctuary tied to celestial events? Adding to the intrigue are the unanswered questions about the eventual abandonment of the site. Archaeologists have found no evidence of large-scale destruction or invasion at Caer Caradoc, which suggests that it wasn't simply overrun by external forces. Instead, the site appears to have been gradually abandoned, left to decay and be reclaimed by the earth. What caused this abandonment? Was it the decline of the tribal system in the region, the shift of power to other areas, or perhaps a change in cultural or religious practices that led to the site's disuse? Without clear evidence of conflict or catastrophe, the cause of the site's decline remains a mystery. Could it have been a deliberate retreat, an abandonment of a way of life that had ceased to hold meaning, or was there something more at play? In recent years, some researchers have suggested that Caer Caradoc, with its enigmatic layout and seemingly deliberate positioning within the landscape, could hold secrets that go beyond simple tribal warfare or governance. The idea that this site was part of a larger ritual or cultural network, perhaps connected to ancient beliefs or spiritual practices, cannot be easily dismissed. Were the people who built this Hillfort connected to a broader cultural or religious tradition that we have yet to fully understand? Could Caer Caradoc, with its strong sense of place and its rich history, hold clues to an ancient understanding of the cosmos, one that has been lost over time? As we stand at the base of the Hillfort, looking up at its towering ramparts and tracing the outline of the ancient ditches, we are left with more questions than answers. The royal Hillfort of Caer Caradoc stands as a quiet yet profound reminder of a time long past, a time when the land itself may have been seen as more than just a resource, but as something sacred, something deeply tied to the identity and purpose of those who once walked upon it. What was Caer Caradoc truly for? What were its people protecting, and what truths, perhaps buried deep within the earth, are still waiting to be uncovered? As we journey farther into the realm of ancient mysteries, we reach one of the most isolated and enigmatic places on Earth, Easter Island. The very name evokes a sense of wonder and intrigue, conjuring images of its iconic stone statues, the moai, standing solemnly against the horizon. But beyond the statues, hidden in the heart of the island, is a site that has left archaeologists, historians, and explorers puzzled for generations. Ahu Vinapu. The Ahu Vinapu platform, situated on the western coast of Easter Island, is a marvel of ancient engineering that defies simple explanation. At first glance, it appears to be a ceremonial platform, one of many scattered across the island, where the moai were once erected. But as we draw closer, something about Ahu Vinapu stands out. Its precision and craftsmanship are unlike anything else on the island. The massive stones that form the platform, some weighing several tons, are perfectly cut and fitted together without the use of mortar or any visible gaps. The joints between the stones are so tight, in fact, that it's difficult to insert even the thinnest of blades between them. This level of construction is startling, especially when compared to other structures on Easter Island, where the stonework is less refined. The platform's unusual precision and the mysterious quality of its construction have led many to question the methods used to create it. How were these massive stones cut and transported? How did the island's inhabitants, who by all accounts had no metal tools, achieve such an extraordinary level of engineering? The mainstream explanation suggests that the Rapa Nui people, the Polynesian settlers of Easter Island, had an extensive knowledge of stoneworking and were capable of creating this marvel using only rudimentary tools made of stone and wood. But even this explanation leaves lingering doubts. Could a society that had such limited technology truly have achieved this level of mastery over stone? Was there something about the techniques used at Ahu Vinapu that we still don't fully understand? One of the most fascinating aspects of Ahu Vinapu is its resemblance to the ancient stonework found in the Andes Mountains of South America. The tight, mortarless construction of Ahu Vinapu closely mirrors the stonework of Incan temples and buildings, particularly the iconic ashlar masonry technique used by the Incas to fit stones together so precisely that even a piece of paper couldn't fit between them. This striking similarity has led some to speculate that there may have been a cultural exchange between Easter Island and South America, an idea that seems almost impossible given the vast distance between the two regions. How could people from such far-flung places have developed such similar architectural styles? Could there have been contact between the peoples of the Andes and the Rapa Nui long before the arrival of Europeans? Or could these similarities point to a shared, lost tradition of construction that predated both cultures? Some researchers have proposed that the Ahu Vinapu platform and its exceptional masonry might have been built by an earlier civilization, one that predated the Rapa Nui people. If true, this theory would suggest that the island was not only inhabited much earlier than previously thought, but that its ancient builders had access to knowledge and techniques that were lost over time. Could there have been a much older, sophisticated culture on Easter Island, one whose achievements were passed down through generations, only to be obscured by time? This theory is still largely speculative, but the possibility remains tantalizing. What if the Rapa Nui were not the first to inhabit the island, but instead inherited the knowledge of a much earlier civilization? As we consider the mystery of Ahu Vinapu, we are also faced with the question of its purpose. Like the other Ahu platforms, Ahu Vinapu was likely a ceremonial site, perhaps used for religious rituals or as a place of worship. It is thought that the moai statues, which were placed on the platforms, represented the spirits of important ancestors, and that their placement on the ahu signified a connection between the living and the dead. But what was it about Ahu Vinapu that made it so special? The platform is unique in its construction, and it was here that one of the island's most impressive moai was placed, known as the Broken Moai, which still rests in the vicinity of the platform. The moai, with its exaggerated facial features and powerful gaze, is a powerful symbol of the Rapa Nui's ancestral reverence. Was the site of Ahu Vinapu a focal point of particular significance, perhaps a place where the elite or the high priests of Rapa Nui gathered for important ceremonies? Or was it a place of broader social importance, where the island's inhabitants came together for communal rites? Adding to the mystery is the island's history of environmental collapse. Easter Island is infamous for its ecological degradation, as the once thriving society of the Rapa Nui people saw the deforestation of their island and the eventual collapse of their society. Could the construction of Ahu Vinapu be tied to a period of prosperity just before the island's decline? Was this monumental platform a symbol of an age of cultural flourishing that was doomed to collapse under the weight of unsustainable practices? Some have even speculated that the construction of the moai statues and the massive stone platforms like Ahu Vinapu may have played a role in the island's environmental decline. Were these colossal undertakings a reflection of a society that poured its resources into monumental works, only to find itself unable to sustain the efforts? And then there is the more esoteric theory that Ahu Vinapu, with its intricate and seemingly perfect stonework, was not just a physical structure but also a place of hidden knowledge. Could the precise construction and placement of the stones be part of a larger system of symbolism, perhaps tied to the stars or the cosmos? The island itself, with its isolation and mysterious history, has long been a subject of speculation regarding ancient knowledge that could have been encoded in the placement of the moai, the design of the Ahu platforms, or even the very stones themselves. Could Ahu Vinapu, then, have been a site of astronomical significance, or perhaps a place where sacred knowledge was passed down through generations? Despite decades of excavation and research, the mystery of Ahu Vinapu remains largely unsolved. Its exact purpose, the methods behind its construction, and the true extent of its connection to other ancient cultures remain shrouded in uncertainty. As we look at the platform today, standing as it does against the backdrop of a windswept island, we are left to wonder, what did the builders of Ahu Vinapu truly know? What secrets did they encode into the stones? And what knowledge has been lost over the centuries, waiting to be uncovered by those who seek to understand the ancient past? The answers, like the island itself, remain distant and elusive. As we leave the wind-swept shores of Easter Island and travel back to the ancient heart of the Mediterranean, we arrive in the rolling hills of central Italy, where a site of deep mystery and significance beckons, the Etruscan necropolis of Cerveteri. Nestled in the countryside just north of Rome, this vast and ancient burial ground holds some of the most striking and enigmatic relics of the Etruscan civilization, a people whose origins, culture, and eventual disappearance continue to elude historians and archaeologists to this day. The necropolis of Cerveteri, also known as the Banditaccia necropolis, is an extensive burial site dating back to the 9th century BC, offering a fascinating glimpse into the funerary practices and beliefs of the Etruscans, a civilization that thrived in pre-Roman Italy. Spread over a vast expanse of land, the necropolis is a labyrinth of tombs, many of which are carved into the rock itself, while others are built in the form of elaborate mounds resembling small houses or entire cities. These tombs, which once held the ashes and relics of Etruscan nobility and elite families, are thought to have been designed to reflect the belief that the afterlife mirrored life on Earth, an eternal home for the departed. Walking through the necropolis today, the surreal quiet of the tombs seems to carry with it the weight of centuries of history. The tombs, with their round, domed roofs, resemble miniature homes, some with doorways and windows still clearly visible in the stone. In these sacred spaces, the dead were placed with their most treasured possessions, including pottery, jewelry, and even weapons, in the hope that they would have everything they needed in the afterlife. The most famous of these tombs is the Tomb of the Shields and Chairs, so named for the stone reliefs of shields and chairs that adorn its walls. These images, so intricately carved into the rock, seem to suggest a profound respect for social and ritual hierarchies, reflecting the power structures of the Etruscan society. Yet the tombs of Cerveteri raise as many questions as they answer. The Etruscans, despite their rich and vibrant civilization, left behind few written records, and much of what we know about them comes from the study of their tombs, art, and the surviving objects buried with their dead. While they were known to have a sophisticated culture, with advanced knowledge of engineering, art, and religion, many of their mysteries remain unresolved. Who were the Etruscans really? Where did they come from? And why did their civilization ultimately fade into obscurity? Could their sudden disappearance have been tied to forces beyond their control, whether political, environmental, or something more mysterious? The tombs themselves suggest a society deeply concerned with the afterlife and the elaborate rituals surrounding death. Yet they also point to an even greater mystery, the Etruscan belief system. Many of the objects buried with the dead are thought to have had symbolic meaning, representing the journey to the afterlife. But some of the artifacts found in the tombs, such as the carved stone reliefs, the intricately decorated pottery, and even the shapes of the tombs themselves, seem to suggest influences that go beyond the Etruscans' known cultural contacts with neighboring Greek and Phoenician civilizations. Could the Etruscans have inherited some of their beliefs and practices from a much older, lost civilization? Could they have been in contact with peoples from distant lands, cultures whose secrets have since been forgotten by history? Another curious feature of the Cerveteri necropolis is the sheer size and scale of the tombs, which suggest a high level of social organization. The most elaborate tombs, such as the Tomb of the Reliefs, feature detailed depictions of daily life, with carved images of objects like mirrors, tools, and musical instruments, all seemingly meant to accompany the deceased in their eternal journey. What does this level of detail tell us about the Etruscan view of life and death? Were the Etruscans perhaps more concerned with the preservation of their cultural identity and practices than we have assumed? And if so, why did their civilization vanish so suddenly, with their language and many of their traditions being lost over time? Perhaps one of the most intriguing aspects of the Etruscan necropolis is its connection to the larger mystery of the Etruscan language. The Etruscans left behind a number of inscriptions, but the language itself remains largely undeciphered, despite efforts by linguists and archaeologists. Unlike Latin or Greek, which have yielded to modern scholarship, Etruscan resists interpretation, its origins and structure remaining a subject of intense debate. Some scholars suggest that the Etruscan language could have been part of a broader linguistic family, one that may have spread across ancient Europe and the Near East. Others propose that the language could be a vestige of an ancient, now lost civilization, one that was far more widespread and advanced than we typically associate with pre-Roman Italy. Further deepening the mystery is the question of the Etruscans' origins. While the traditional view holds that the Etruscans were an indigenous people of Italy, there are those who suggest that their civilization could have come from somewhere else entirely. Some theories propose that the Etruscans were migrants from the Near East, or even from the Aegean region, with some scholars pointing to similarities in their art and architecture to those of ancient Greek and Anatolian cultures. Were the Etruscans truly native to Italy, or were they part of a much larger movement of peoples, bringing with them advanced knowledge and cultural practices from the East? Despite the wealth of artifacts and monuments left behind, the fate of the Etruscan civilization remains a profound mystery. Unlike the Romans, who built their empire through conquest and expansion, the Etruscans left no written historical accounts of their rise or fall, no grand records of their rulers or battles. Their decline, which began around the 5th century BC, is still not fully understood. Was it the result of internal strife, or was it the pressure of external forces, such as the rise of Rome? Or could there be a more obscure cause, something hidden from the historical record, that led to the sudden disappearance of a culture so rich in art and tradition? The Etruscan necropolis of Cerveteri, with its elaborate tombs, striking artifacts, and lingering air of mystery, offers us a rare glimpse into a world that has left only faint traces behind. As we stand among the silent tombs, surrounded by the echoes of an ancient civilization, we are left to wonder, what knowledge did the Etruscans possess that has been lost to time? And what secrets might still lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered, waiting to speak once more? The answers may be out of reach for now, but the mystery of Cerveteri, like the civilization it represents, is far from forgotten. As we leave behind the ancient necropolises of Europe and venture toward the heart of Mesoamerica, a mysterious sight rises before us, quietly waiting to be understood. The Cuicuilco Circular Pyramid, located in modern-day Mexico, sits on the outskirts of Mexico City, partially veiled by the sprawling metropolis that surrounds it. With its circular shape and enigmatic purpose, this ancient structure beckons us to peer into a world that seems almost lost to history. The pyramid's design is striking, unlike the more commonly known pyramids of Mesoamerica, which typically have step-like faces. Cuicuilco is a rare example of a circular pyramid, with wide, gently sloping walls rising up from the earth. This unusual form challenges conventional thinking about Mesoamerican architecture and construction techniques, leading to more questions than answers. What motivated its builders to create a structure so different from the angular pyramids that would come to dominate the region? And why does it appear to have been abandoned before it was ever finished? The Cuicuilco Circular Pyramid dates back to around 800 BCE, making it one of the oldest known pyramids in the region. It was built by the pre-Hispanic people known as the Cuicuilco culture, who inhabited the Valley of Mexico long before the Aztecs and their towering pyramids dominated the landscape. The pyramid, while large, is only one element of the larger site, which includes a sprawling complex of platforms, courtyards, and other ceremonial structures. But despite the vastness of the site, much of it remains shrouded in mystery. Archaeologists are still piecing together the cultural and religious practices of the Cuicuilco people. But one thing is clear. Cuicuilco was an important ceremonial center in its time, likely the heart of a thriving community. As we stand before the pyramid, its circular base suggests that it might have been designed to represent something fundamental, perhaps the cyclical nature of time or the connection between the earth and the heavens. The circular shape itself could have had symbolic meaning, possibly tied to Mesoamerican beliefs about the sun, the moon, or other celestial bodies. The circular pyramid may not have been simply a place of worship, but a site for astronomical observation, a tool to track the movements of the stars and planets that governed the rhythm of life. Yet, even as we marvel at the pyramid's design and speculate on its purpose, we are confronted with one of the most perplexing aspects of Cuicuilco, the abrupt end of the civilization that created it. The pyramid, though incomplete, appears to have been abandoned long before it was finished. The reason for this abandonment remains one of the great mysteries of the site. Some scholars suggest that Cuicuilco's decline may have been tied to a volcanic eruption around 200 CE, which buried much of the region in ash. The eruption of the nearby Zittel volcano is thought to have caused widespread devastation, potentially forcing the inhabitants of Cuicuilco to abandon their homes and sacred sites. But could a natural disaster alone have led to the sudden and complete abandonment of such an important center? Or is there something more at play here? The volcanic eruption theory, while plausible, is not the only explanation for Cuicuilco's downfall. Some have proposed that the pyramid was left unfinished due to political or social upheaval. Was there an internal struggle, a power shift, or perhaps a religious transformation that caused the Cuicuilco people to move away from their once great center? And what role, if any, did the rise of neighboring cultures, such as Teotihuacan, play in the demise of Cuicuilco? Teotihuacan, with its grand pyramids and urban planning, eventually rose to prominence in the Valley of Mexico, overshadowing smaller cities like Cuicuilco. Could the shift in power have contributed to Cuicuilco's abandonment? But the volcanic eruption theory also raises other intriguing possibilities. The ash from the Zittel volcano would have covered the surrounding areas in a thick layer of volcanic material, which may have preserved some elements of Cuicuilco for centuries, leaving behind clues that are just now being uncovered. Could the eruption have been seen by the Cuicuilco people as a divine sign, signaling the end of their civilization? If so, could the pyramid have been abandoned as a symbol of the destruction of the old order, while the survivors moved to other parts of the valley? Adding to the intrigue of Cuicuilco is the question of its architectural influences. While the circular pyramid is unique in its design, the people of Cuicuilco were part of a larger cultural network that spanned Mesoamerica. Could there have been external influences on their architecture, possibly from other cultures to the south or from the west? The circular pyramid bears a striking resemblance to some of the early ceremonial structures found in the Olmec civilization, which thrived on the Gulf Coast of Mexico around the same time. Could there have been an exchange of ideas, beliefs, and architectural knowledge between the Cuicuilco people and the Olmec? Or is it possible that both cultures developed similar architectural styles independently, with shared symbolic meanings behind their designs? As archaeologists continue to explore the site, more evidence is gradually being uncovered, but much of Cuicuilco remains elusive. The exact religious practices of its people are still largely speculative. What deities did the Cuicuilco worship, and what rituals did they perform at the base of the pyramid? Did they use the site to perform astronomical observations, as some scholars suggest, or was it perhaps a place where political leaders held power and conducted ceremonies to affirm their authority? Could there have been other, more esoteric reasons for its construction, reasons that we have yet to understand? Even the name Cuicuilco itself, meaning place of the song, or the singing place in the Nahuatl language, evokes a sense of mystery and reverence. What did the name refer to? Was it a place where sacred songs or rituals were performed to honor the gods? Or was it more symbolic, perhaps referring to the harmony between the earth and the heavens that the pyramid was designed to reflect? As we stand at the base of the Cuicuilco circular pyramid, gazing up at its remnants, we are left with more questions than answers. Why was this pyramid abandoned before it could be completed? What secrets does it hold, hidden beneath the layers of time and volcanic ash? And how much more is there to discover about the lost civilization that created it? Cuicuilco remains a testament to a people whose history and culture still hold many mysteries that may one day be revealed, but for now, continue to captivate and challenge us. As we shift our focus from the ancient pyramids and ceremonial structures of the Americas to the mist-laden hills of Ireland, another architectural marvel awaits our attention. This time, the site is one of subtle yet profound elegance, a structure that seems to emerge from the very earth itself, blending perfectly with the landscape, as if it has been there for millennia, silently watching the world evolve around it. We are speaking of the Gallarus Oratory, a stone-built chapel that stands isolated on the Dingle Peninsula, tucked away in a secluded corner of Ireland's rugged coastline. Gallarus Oratory, though relatively modest in scale, is one of the best preserved examples of early Christian architecture in Ireland. Constructed entirely from dry stone without mortar, the structure has endured the passage of time with remarkable resilience. Its roof is designed in the shape of an inverted boat or a corbelled roof, where stones are placed in such a way that they gradually taper toward the top, creating an arch without the need for any support beams. This distinctive design has led many to suggest that it was built with both practical and symbolic intentions, perhaps to reflect the ancient and sacred tradition of the boat as a vessel of journey, whether in the physical or spiritual sense. The oratory itself measures only about 5 meters in length, making it a small yet powerful symbol of early Christian monasticism. The stone walls rise up from the earth, their surfaces weathered by centuries of wind, rain, and salt air. The structure is simple, without adornment, yet there is a quiet, timeless beauty in its form. When the sunlight hits the stone, casting shadows across its surface, it seems almost as though the building is a part of the land itself, as though it grew there, organically. While the exact purpose of Gallarus Oratory is known to be a place of Christian worship, it is also a site shrouded in mystery. The structure has long been linked to early Christian monasticism, and its construction is generally attributed to the 6th or 7th century A.D. However, the design of the building and the precision of its construction suggest that it could have had a much older origin, possibly even predating the arrival of Christianity to Ireland. Was Gallarus Oratory built by early Christian monks, or was it part of a much older tradition, possibly pre-Christian, reinterpreted by the incoming Christian settlers? This question lingers in the air, inviting deeper reflection. The most compelling mystery surrounding Gallarus Oratory is its precise alignment with the surrounding landscape. The oratory faces a certain direction, with its entrance oriented toward the east, suggesting an understanding of the rising sun, a celestial phenomenon that was of great importance in many ancient cultures, including the Celts. The symbolic act of facing east has often been associated with Christian traditions, as it symbolizes the direction from which Christ is believed to return. Yet, could the alignment of the oratory also hold pre-Christian significance? Did it reflect an older tradition of sun worship, or perhaps a deeper cosmic understanding of time and space? Moreover, the oratory's design raises questions about its function. Given the remote location of Gallarus Oratory, it seems plausible that it was used as a monastic retreat or a place for solitary prayer and reflection. Yet, the structure's compact size and the apparent lack of any surrounding buildings suggest that it may have been used primarily for smaller, intimate gatherings rather than larger congregational worship. Some theorists have speculated that it could have also served as a site for pilgrimage or as a sanctuary for travelers who sought a spiritual respite in this serene corner of Ireland. The fact that the oratory has stood the test of time, despite centuries of storms, invasions, and even the spread of later architectural styles, adds to its mystery. The craftsmanship of the stonework is remarkable, and its preservation is nothing short of awe-inspiring, especially when you consider the harsh coastal conditions it has weathered. How were the builders able to construct such a resilient structure without the use of mortar? Was there a hidden knowledge or technique involved in the construction that has been lost over the centuries? Could the oratory's design reflect a more advanced understanding of architectural engineering than we give it credit for? Some have even proposed that the Gallarus Oratory might not have been merely a Christian structure, but a site of deeper spiritual or even astronomical significance. Given its unique shape and orientation, the oratory could have functioned as a type of astronomical observatory. The precision with which it aligns with the natural world, particularly the cycles of the sun, suggests that the people who built it may have been more attuned to the celestial movements than we might assume. Could the oratory have been part of a much older system of monuments, one that linked the ancient peoples of Ireland to the cosmos, much like the megalithic structures of Newgrange, which were designed to mark the winter solstice? While the mainstream view is that Gallarus Oratory was constructed by early Christian monks as a place of worship, there is still much speculation about its true origins. Was it built by a local Celtic community long before the arrival of Christianity, then later reinterpreted by the incoming Christian monks as a place of Christian devotion? Could it have served dual purposes, both as a Christian sanctuary and as a place for the continuation of ancient pre-Christian practices? The absence of any significant religious iconography or carvings on the walls of the oratory raises the question: was this a place for communal worship, or was it used for more personal introspective practices? One of the most intriguing aspects of Gallarus Oratory is its isolation. Set against the backdrop of the windswept hills of Dingle, the oratory is far removed from the busy towns and cities. It stands alone, like a solitary sentinel, enduring through centuries of Irish history. Its silence and solitude only amplify the mystery of its purpose. Why was it built in such a remote location? Was it meant to be a quiet refuge for the monks who built it, far from the distractions of the world? Or was it an intentionally hidden place, one that could only be accessed by those seeking a deeper connection with the divine? As we look at Gallarus Oratory today, we are reminded of the passage of time and the enduring questions that history leaves behind. This seemingly simple structure, built of stone and earth, continues to spark our curiosity, drawing us into the mystery of its origins and its purpose. Despite centuries of study, the full significance of Gallarus Oratory remains elusive. Was it simply a place of early Christian worship, or was it a reflection of a much older, more complex relationship between humanity and the divine? As we stand before its stone walls, we are left to wonder, what knowledge did its builders possess that has been lost to us? And what truths still lie hidden in the stone, waiting for the right questions to be asked? Gallarus Oratory, like many ancient sites, holds its secrets close. But in the quiet stone embrace of this remarkable building, the mystery endures, inviting us to wonder, to question, and to reflect on the ancient forces that shaped it, and the knowledge that may still remain buried beneath its weathered surface. As we leave the tranquil, mist-shrouded hills of Ireland behind, we now find ourselves on the windswept shores of Orkney, a group of islands off the northern coast of Scotland. Here, in a remote corner of the archipelago, stands a site of quiet, eerie mystery, the Knap of Howar. Unlike the grand monuments of ancient Egypt or the towering pyramids of Mesoamerica, this site is humble in appearance, yet no less fascinating. The Knap of Howar is one of the oldest stone buildings in northern Europe, a place that, despite its modest scale, holds secrets that continue to captivate archaeologists and historians alike. The Knap of Howar consists of 2 stone houses constructed from massive slabs of stone, each one perfectly fitted together without mortar. The houses are low to the ground, with thick stone walls that seem to emerge organically from the earth itself. The structures are small, just a few meters across, yet they appear sturdy and resilient, as if designed to stand against the elements for millennia. Situated on the island of Papa Westray, one of Orkney's northernmost islands, the Knap of Howar is set against the backdrop of the sea, its stone walls weathered by salt and wind, yet somehow defying time. The site dates back to around 3700 BCE, making it one of the earliest examples of settled human life in northern Europe. These ancient buildings, thought to be a kind of farmhouse or dwelling, are part of the Neolithic tradition that marked a significant shift in human history. The transition from nomadic lifestyles to settled farming communities. The Knap of Howar offers us a rare glimpse into this early period, before the advent of monumental architecture or complex urban centers. Yet, even as we study the physical remains of the structure, questions linger. What motivated the people who built it? What was their daily life like, and how did they perceive the world around them? The simplicity of the Knap of Howar may suggest a humble existence, but there is a certain intrigue in its very design. The houses are built with an impressive degree of engineering skill, with the massive stones carefully arranged to create domed roofs. This type of stone construction, known as corbelling, allows the structure to remain stable without the need for mortar, and its strength is evident in the way the walls have endured the passage of thousands of years. But how did these early builders manage to quarry, transport, and fit such massive stones together with such precision, using only rudimentary tools? It is a question that continues to puzzle archaeologists. In addition to the masterful stonework, the layout of the Knap of Howar suggests that the people who lived here were not only concerned with shelter, but also with the arrangement of space. Inside the houses, archaeologists have discovered traces of hearths, grinding stones, and pottery, all of which point to a settled, agricultural lifestyle. The inhabitants likely grew crops and raised animals, relying on the land and sea for sustenance. Yet, despite the evidence of daily life, there is no clear indication of any elaborate burial practices, religious rituals, or art, elements that we often associate with ancient civilizations. This leaves us to wonder, was the Knap of Howar purely utilitarian, or did it have symbolic or spiritual significance to its inhabitants? What beliefs did these early people hold, and how did they perceive the world around them? The age of the site also raises intriguing questions about its cultural context. The people who built the Knap of Howar were part of a larger Neolithic culture that spanned much of Europe, but they were also isolated in a remote part of the world where few people lived. Did they have contact with other cultures, or were they entirely self-contained? Archaeological evidence suggests that the Orkney Islands were part of a complex network of trade routes during the Neolithic period, and the people of the Knap of Howar may have been involved in long-distance exchanges of goods and ideas. Could the builders of the Knap of Howar have been influenced by distant cultures, or was their way of life uniquely shaped by the environment of the Orkney Islands? One of the most compelling aspects of the Knap of Howar is its enigmatic connection to the broader landscape. The site is situated on a small promontory with sweeping views of the surrounding sea. The strategic positioning of the houses suggests that the people who lived here were not only concerned with practical matters such as shelter and food, but also with the symbolism of their environment. The sea, with its unpredictable tides and rhythms, may have had a significant role in their worldview. Could the proximity to the water have held spiritual or ritual significance? Did the inhabitants of the Knap of Howar view the sea as a gateway to another world, or as a symbol of the forces of nature that governed their existence? Despite its remote location, the Knap of Howar is part of a wider tradition of Neolithic stone construction found throughout the Orkney Islands. The nearby sites of Skara Brae and the Ring of Brodgar, for example, share many of the same architectural elements, and together they form a complex of sites that hint at a rich and sophisticated culture, one that was far more connected to the cosmos and the natural world than we often give credit. Could the people of the Knap of Howar have been part of this larger tradition, participating in a shared spiritual and cultural framework that linked them to the wider Neolithic world? As we consider the mysteries of the Knap of Howar, it is impossible to ignore the larger question of why such sites remain so poorly understood. The Knap of Howar has provided archaeologists with countless artifacts and clues, Yet so much of the cultural and spiritual life of its people remains hidden. What do the people who built this site have to teach us about their relationship with the land, the sea, and the cosmos? And what were the larger forces at play in the development of Neolithic societies in the British Isles? It is also worth reflecting on the eventual abandonment of the Knap of Howar. Why did the people who built such an enduring structure leave it behind? Did they move on to other settlements, or did environmental changes or social upheaval force them to abandon their homes? The Knap of Howar may have been one of many early farming communities, each one built with care and purpose, yet each one fading into obscurity as the centuries passed. Did the inhabitants of the Knap of Howar simply outgrow their need for such structures? Or did something more profound lead to the abandonment of this unique site? The Knap of Howar stands today as a quiet witness to a long-lost way of life, offering us a glimpse into the past while also leaving us with countless questions. As we stand before its ancient stone walls, we are reminded of the limitations of history. How much is lost to time? How much remains hidden beneath the earth? The mysteries of the Knap of Howar remain unresolved, and perhaps they always will be. But in this quiet, remote corner of Orkney, the site calls to us, inviting us to wonder, what else lies hidden in the stone waiting to be discovered? As we journey from the northern reaches of Europe to the dense rainforests of Indonesia, we uncover a hidden marvel, an enigmatic site that has both captivated and confounded archaeologists for decades. Tucked away on the slopes of Mount Padang in West Java lies the Gunung Padang megalithic site, a place where ancient stones, overgrown with moss and vegetation, rise from the earth, holding secrets that stretch the limits of historical understanding. Gunung Padang is not just another ancient structure. This megalithic site stands as an imposing and mysterious testament to human ingenuity and ambition. The site is a series of terraced stone structures perched on the mountainside, resembling an ancient pyramid that has yet to reveal all its secrets. From a distance, the site may seem like a natural formation, stone outcrops shaped by the passage of time. But as you draw closer, the carefully arranged stones, the deliberate placement of megalithic blocks, and the complex alignment of the terraces begin to suggest something far more intentional. The Gunung Padang megalithic site is believed to date back to around 5000 BC, making it one of the oldest known megalithic sites in the world. However, recent excavations and research have suggested that it could be much older than originally thought. Some even propose that it could be as much as 20,000 years old. This would make it older than the Great Pyramids of Giza and the stone circles of Stonehenge, which are traditionally seen as the pinnacle of ancient stone construction. The site consists of multiple layers of stone platforms, each one built on top of the other, creating a series of terraces that climb the mountainside. The stones used to construct the site are massive, some weighing several tons, and they are arranged in such a way that suggests both advanced engineering and a deep understanding of the landscape. The careful arrangement of the stones, with their precise alignment and deliberate positioning, raises the question: how did the people who built Gunung Padang achieve such remarkable feats with only primitive tools? And what motivated them to construct such a vast and complex site in the first place? At the heart of the mystery of Gunung Padang is the question of its true purpose. Many of the stones at the site are shaped in a way that suggests they were not just used for structural support, but for symbolic or ritualistic purposes. Some stones have intricate carvings, while others appear to align with celestial bodies or natural features of the landscape, such as the movement of the sun or stars. Could this site have been an ancient observatory, designed to track celestial events and align with the heavens? The idea that Gunung Padang could have served as a place of astronomical observation has been proposed by some researchers, but the evidence remains inconclusive. Adding to the intrigue is the discovery of underground chambers and layers beneath the terraces. In recent years, advanced geological surveys using ground-penetrating radar and other non-invasive techniques have revealed signs of hidden structures deep within the site, structures that are not immediately visible to the naked eye. Some of these underground chambers appear to be large, perhaps even as large as the visible terraces themselves. What lies beneath the surface of Gunung Padang? Could there be an entire underground city or complex hidden from view? The possibility that this site could have multiple layers of history, with each new excavation revealing more about its ancient builders, only adds to the mystery. The origins of the people who built Gunung Padang remain a subject of much debate. While it is generally accepted that the site was constructed by an early form of human civilization, who they were and what their society looked like is still largely unknown. The ancient Javanese people, like many early civilizations, likely relied on a combination of agriculture, trade, and religious practices to build their societies. Yet the level of sophistication evident at Gunung Padang raises further questions. How did such an early civilization develop the knowledge and skills to build something so complex, with such precise alignment to the natural world? What technologies did they possess that have been lost to time? And what role did the site play in their culture? Was it a place of worship, a center of learning, or something entirely different? One of the most intriguing aspects of Gunung Padang is its potential connection to other ancient cultures. The precision of the stonework, as well as the apparent alignment with celestial events, bears similarities to other megalithic sites around the world. Sites like the pyramids of Egypt, the stone circles of the British Isles, and the ancient city of Teotihuacan in Mesoamerica. Could there have been a global network of ancient civilizations sharing knowledge and cultural practices long before the rise of known empires? Or could there be an even older, forgotten civilization that spanned continents, one that left behind megalithic structures and symbols across the world? Some fringe theories have suggested that Gunung Padang and other ancient sites like it are evidence of a long-lost advanced civilization, perhaps one that existed during a time when human society was far more advanced than we have ever imagined. In addition to these speculative theories, the connection between Gunung Padang and the geological features of the area is also noteworthy. The site is situated on a series of volcanic hills, and some researchers have suggested that the stone structures could have been built as part of a larger effort to harness the power of the land itself. The volcanic soil and underground mineral deposits could have held spiritual or ritual significance, and the people who built Gunung Padang may have seen the site as a way to connect with the Earth's primal energy. Did the builders of Gunung Padang understand the forces of nature on a level we have yet to grasp? Could their use of the land's natural resources have been part of a larger, more sophisticated system of belief or technology? As we consider the mysteries of Gunung Padang, it's impossible not to be drawn into the question of what else might lie hidden beneath the surface of this extraordinary site. With ongoing excavations and new technologies being employed to peer deeper into the site's secrets, it's clear that there is still much to uncover. The mystery of Gunung Padang remains unsolved, but the site itself continues to captivate and inspire those who study it. What could this ancient megalithic site tell us about the distant past, and what could it reveal about the forgotten civilizations that once thrived on this earth? The story of Gunung Padang is far from complete. As archaeologists and researchers continue to explore its many layers, both above and below ground, the site stands as a reminder that history is never fully written. It challenges our understanding of the past and invites us to question the origins of human civilization. What truths about our distant ancestors might still lie hidden beneath the surface, and how many more mysteries like Gunung Padang remain waiting to be uncovered, waiting for the right question, the right insight, to bring them to light? The answers may lie just beneath the surface, waiting for us to discover them. As we venture deeper into the heart of ancient history, there lies a site in the German countryside that holds its own brand of mystery and awe. Goseck Circle, an ancient circular monument, lies quietly in the land of Saxony-Anhalt, seemingly forgotten by time, but silently whispering its secrets. The site, first discovered in 1991, has since become one of the most enigmatic archaeological locations in Europe, drawing scholars, archaeologists, and curious minds to ponder its origins and purpose. Imagine standing in the center of this prehistoric circle. Before you stretches a vast landscape, and surrounding you are the weathered remnants of 3 concentric ditches, defining the edges of the site. In the distance, the low hills of the region seem to stretch endlessly, as if guarding the site from the modern world. From above, the full extent of Goseck Circle reveals itself, a perfectly circular enclosure, with the entrance aligned to the rising and setting sun on the winter solstice. This alignment is not merely coincidental. It's a deliberate and calculated design, suggesting that the builders of this structure had an extraordinary understanding of astronomy and the movement of celestial bodies. The true significance of Goseck Circle becomes even more intriguing when you consider its age. Radiocarbon dating places its construction around 5000 BC, making it one of the oldest known solar observatories in Europe. At this time, the people who built it, likely part of the linear band ceramic, LBK culture, were just beginning to shift from hunter-gatherer lifestyles to more permanent agricultural societies. It's difficult to imagine a time when this circular monument was bustling with activity. Yet, even in its quiet decay today, Goseck Circle exudes a sense of purpose and mystery. The structure's precision is extraordinary. At its core, the circle measures about 75 meters in diameter, with a series of 2-meter-wide ditches forming the boundary. Within this outermost circle is an even more striking feature: 2 gates, carefully aligned with the sunrise and sunset of the winter solstice. The alignment indicates that the site was built with a profound understanding of solar movements and likely used for ceremonial or astronomical observations. But how and why did these early Europeans possess such detailed knowledge? Theories about the purpose of Goseck Circle abound. Some argue that it was an astronomical observatory, a place where ancient peoples could track the cycles of the sun and align their agricultural practices accordingly. The idea that early human societies were using these kinds of solar alignments to mark the changing seasons makes sense. After all, the solstices, those moments when the sun either reaches its highest or lowest point in the sky, were crucial for the survival of agricultural societies. The winter solstice, in particular, marked a time of renewal, as the days would begin to grow longer again. Could Goseck Circle have been a ritual space, a place to celebrate this rebirth of the sun, to honor the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth? There is another theory, one that delves deeper into the symbolism of the site. Some believe that Goseck Circle was not just a place for observing the heavens, but might have had a more spiritual significance. Could the circle have been a sacred space, a place where the people of this ancient culture made offerings to their gods or performed ritualistic ceremonies? The very structure of the site seems to lend itself to this theory. The concentric circles could have symbolized the cycles of life itself, with the gates marking thresholds between worlds, the physical world and the spiritual realm, perhaps. The idea of a sacred space aligned with celestial events aligns with other ancient ritual sites, where the heavens were thought to influence the fate of those on earth. There are also those who question whether Goseck Circle was a solitary structure or part of a larger network of similar sites. The idea that prehistoric peoples could have constructed multiple sites for astronomical observation across vast distances is not without precedent. The alignment of these sites with the solstices suggests a level of coordination and knowledge that might have been shared across cultures. Was Goseck Circle just one part of a larger ritual or cultural tradition that spanned a wider region of prehistoric Europe? Did its builders exchange knowledge with others who constructed similar sites? These questions open up an intriguing possibility that there may have been a broader trans-regional network of knowledge that connected the builders of Goseck Circle with other ancient peoples across Europe. The existence of burials found within the circle adds another layer of complexity to our understanding of Goseck. Archaeological excavations have revealed the remains of several individuals who were buried in ritualistic positions, suggesting that the site may have also served as a funerary monument. The association of the dead with celestial alignments is a recurring theme in ancient cultures. Perhaps the dead were believed to enter a cosmic cycle after death, with the sun's path marking the journey of their souls. Could Goseck Circle have functioned as a place of passage, where the living and the dead were connected by the movements of the sun? Yet, as we delve deeper into the mysteries surrounding Goseck Circle, we're left with more questions than answers. Who were the people who built this site, and how did they come to possess such detailed knowledge of the stars and sun? What was the true purpose of the site? Was it purely functional, or was there a deeper, more spiritual connection to the cosmos? And perhaps most tantalizing of all, what other sites like it remain hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? Despite the wealth of theories, Goseck Circle still holds much of its mystery. The full story of its creation, its function, and its significance remains a puzzle that scholars continue to piece together. But the alignment with the winter solstice, the ancient ritual burials, and the sheer magnitude of effort that went into constructing this monument all speak to a deep reverence for the celestial world and an understanding of the universe far beyond what we typically associate with prehistoric peoples. Was Goseck Circle a place where ancient people charted the cosmos? Or was it a sacred space where the very foundations of life and death were linked to the movements of the stars? As we walk the grounds of Goseck Circle, we are reminded that even the most ancient of mysteries can still hold answers, if we look closely enough. What truths about our ancestors are hidden within these weathered ditches, waiting for us to uncover? Perhaps, like the sun itself, the answers are hidden in the cycles of time, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. As we journey across the vast stretches of time, we find ourselves in one of the most mysterious and awe-inspiring locations in the world, Mohenjo-Daro, an ancient city of the Indus Valley civilization. Situated along the banks of the Indus River, in what is now modern-day Pakistan, this site holds within its sun-bleached ruins the echoes of a long-forgotten civilization, one that flourished over 4,500 years ago and suddenly disappeared without a trace. Mohenjo-Daro, meaning Mound of the Dead, presents an image of quiet desolation. The city, once teeming with life, now stands as a ghostly testament to a bygone era. What remains today are the skeletal outlines of a well-organized urban center, rows of neatly laid-out streets, brick-lined houses, and advanced infrastructure, each piece of the puzzle pointing toward a highly sophisticated society. Despite its enigmatic ruins, however, the true nature of Mohenjo-Daro and its people remains shrouded in mystery. At first glance, the layout of Mohenjo-Daro reveals an impressive level of urban planning. The city was carefully divided into two distinct sections: a lower town, where the majority of the population resided, and a raised citadel, which likely served as the center of political and religious life. The streets were wide, straight, and laid out in a grid pattern, a feature that was remarkably advanced for its time. Drainage systems, some of the earliest of their kind, are among the most striking elements of the city. Sewers ran under the streets, and many of the houses had private wells, providing evidence of a well-developed infrastructure and an understanding of sanitation that was far ahead of its time. But despite these impressive achievements, Mohenjo-Daro remains a city surrounded by an eerie silence. The people who once lived here left no written records behind. No inscriptions, no literature, no clear signs of their beliefs or cultural practices have been found, making it difficult to fully understand who they were, how they lived, or why they vanished. This lack of written language is one of the greatest mysteries of Mohenjo-Daro. How could a civilization so advanced in many ways have left no trace of its thoughts, its stories, or its history? The most pressing mystery, however, lies in the sudden and dramatic end of Mohenjo-Daro. Around 1900 BCE, the city was abandoned. The reasons for this abrupt disappearance have sparked a great deal of speculation, ranging from theories of natural disaster to environmental collapse, foreign invasion, or internal strife. Evidence suggests that Mohenjo-Daro was abandoned in a hurry, with no signs of deliberate destruction by invaders or war. The buildings were left intact, yet the streets stood empty. Could the inhabitants have left due to a sudden environmental disaster, perhaps a massive flooding event, or a shift in the course of the Indus River that cut off their water supply? Some theories suggest that the river's shifting course may have turned the once thriving city into a barren and inhospitable land, forcing its residents to migrate elsewhere. Yet, there is also evidence that the end of Mohenjo-Daro may have been far more complex. In the ruins of the city, archaeologists have discovered skeletal remains that show signs of violent trauma. Some of the bodies appear to have been hastily buried, while others show signs of having been left exposed, perhaps in the wake of some sudden catastrophic event. Could this suggest that the city's inhabitants were attacked or even massacred? Or might it point to a sudden and rapid collapse of society, perhaps brought on by some internal conflict or social upheaval? The skeletal remains are puzzling in themselves. Some of the bodies appear to have been placed in a position of prayer or reverence, suggesting that some sort of ritual may have occurred before their deaths. But it is not only the physical remains of Mohenjo-Daro that hold questions. The city's artifacts are equally mysterious. Among the thousands of objects discovered in the ruins, many are exquisite in their craftsmanship, yet their purpose remains unclear. Small, intricately carved seals made of steatite, depicting animals, human figures, and abstract symbols, have been found scattered throughout the city. These seals may have been used for trade or as personal amulets, but their true meaning remains elusive. The symbols inscribed on the seals have never been deciphered, adding another layer to the mystery of the city. Some have speculated that the seals could be evidence of a sophisticated religious or spiritual system, but without more context, it is impossible to know for certain. Among the most mysterious of the city's features is the Great Bath, an enormous, well-constructed pool located in the citadel. This bath, with its meticulously engineered drainage and water supply system, suggests that the people of Mohenjo-Daro had an advanced understanding of hydraulics and water management. Was this bath a public place of ritual purification, a communal bathhouse, or something more? The fact that such a complex and significant structure was constructed so early in human history raises important questions about the role of ritual and religion in early societies. What was the cultural or religious significance of water for the people of Mohenjo-Daro? Could this bath have served as a form of communal or spiritual cleansing, or was it purely a practical feature? Adding to the intrigue, some researchers have suggested that the urban layout of Mohenjo-Daro may have had astronomical or cosmological significance. The city's carefully planned streets, the layout of the buildings, and the presence of large public spaces all point toward a highly organized society, perhaps even one with a deeply spiritual or metaphysical worldview. Some scholars propose that the city's design could reflect an understanding of the movements of the stars or the seasons, making it not only a functional city, but a kind of cosmic reflection. Could the city itself have been a kind of giant astronomical observatory, built to align with the rhythms of the heavens? But these theories, like the others, remain speculative. The lack of written records and the city's abandonment make it difficult to form a concrete understanding of what Mohenjo-Daro was truly like. Was it a flourishing metropolis with a complex, organized society? Or was it a society in decline, struggling with internal turmoil or environmental challenges? The more we learn about the city, the more questions arise. As we stand amidst the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro today, the question remains: what caused the sudden disappearance of this great city? What did the people of Mohenjo-Daro know? And what were they trying to tell us through their art, their buildings, and their mysterious artifacts? Did they leave behind a warning, a sign of their own fall, or a message we have yet to understand? The answers are still out there, buried beneath the dust and stones of Mohenjo-Daro, waiting for the right questions to bring them to light. As we continue to explore the hidden corners of ancient history, we must remember that some mysteries remain unsolved, their secrets lost to time. Perhaps Mohenjo-Daro holds the key to understanding not just the fate of one civilization, but the broader forces that shape the rise and fall of societies. What knowledge, what wisdom might still be hidden beneath the ruins? The city of Mohenjo-Daro may have been silenced by time, but its story, like so many others, remains unfinished. And perhaps, just perhaps, there are still answers to be found. As we shift our focus from the ancient cities and civilizations of the East, we arrive on the Mediterranean island of Sardinia, where the winds sweep across rugged landscapes and timeless ruins. Nestled in the heart of this island, near the archaeological site of Santu Antine, lies one of the most enigmatic remnants of prehistory, the Nuragic domestic zones. These stone structures, scattered across Sardinia, offer an intriguing glimpse into a long-lost world that remains shrouded in mystery. The Nuragic civilization, which flourished between 1800 BCE and 500 BCE, was a society of remarkable complexity and ingenuity, yet it has left behind few records of its ways. Unlike many ancient cultures, the Nuragic people did not use writing, and their language remains unknown. What they did leave, however, is an enduring legacy of megalithic architecture and intriguing domestic zones, mysterious remnants of their homes and communal spaces that hint at a culture both sophisticated and elusive. The Nuragic domestic zones near Santu Antine are situated within the broader landscape of the Nuragic complex, a series of ancient settlements, dwellings, and fortifications built primarily of large, carefully arranged stone blocks. These zones are believed to have served as residential areas, providing a look into the daily lives of the Nuragic people. While much of the world's focus has been on the towering stone towers known as nures, which dominate the island's landscape, the domestic zones remain less explored and more enigmatic. Walking through the remnants of these domestic zones, the first thing that strikes you is the sheer scale of the stonework. Unlike other ancient civilizations that built with mud, brick, or timber, the Nuragic people employed massive stone blocks to construct their dwellings. The houses were built in a circular or domed shape, with thick stone walls that seem to have stood the test of time, despite the ravages of weather and centuries of neglect. These dwellings, while simple in form, display a sophisticated understanding of construction techniques. The stones are cut with precision, fitting together without mortar, a technique that suggests not only knowledge of geometry, but an understanding of how to work with the natural resources available on the island. Yet, despite the impressive stonework, the purpose of these domestic zones remains unclear. Were these simply the homes of ordinary people, or did they serve a more complex role in Nuragic society? The size and structure of the buildings suggest a highly organized society, one where space was carefully planned and designated for specific functions. But was there a deeper meaning behind the design of these domestic zones? Were these buildings connected to religious rituals, or did they play a more utilitarian role in supporting the agricultural life of the people? The lack of written records only deepens the mystery. Archaeologists have uncovered a wealth of pottery, tools, and other artifacts within the domestic zones. Yet these objects, while illuminating, do not provide definitive answers about the daily lives or beliefs of the people who inhabited these spaces. There are no clear signs of elaborate art or religious symbols, leaving us to wonder about the spiritual and cultural practices of the Nuragic people. What did they believe in? How did they interact with the natural world, and how did they view their place in the cosmos? One of the most puzzling aspects of the Nuragic domestic zones near Santu Antine is the absence of clear evidence of fortifications or defensive structures within the residential areas themselves. Unlike other ancient cultures that built their homes within walled cities or fortresses, the Nuragic people seem to have lived in a more open, less defensive manner. This raises the question, were the Nuragic people simply unafraid of outside threats, or did they have some other form of protection, one that has yet to be uncovered? Could there be an unseen element of their society that kept them safe, perhaps a hidden social structure or a network of alliances? There are also peculiarities in the layout of these domestic zones that suggest there may have been more going on here than simple habitation. For example, some of the dwellings feature odd-shaped rooms or structures that appear to have served as specialized spaces, possibly for storage, rituals, or even communal gatherings. The presence of large stone-built storage facilities within some of the homes points to a society that was deeply invested in agricultural production, suggesting that the Nuragic people may have used these spaces to store surplus grain or other resources. But the arrangement of the rooms and the positioning of doors and windows suggest that there was a symbolic or functional reason behind these spaces, perhaps tied to the seasons or the celestial rhythms of the natural world. Adding to the mystery is the fact that many of the domestic zones are located near major Nuragic sites, such as the well-known Nurags and sacred wells, suggesting that the people who lived in these zones were not isolated, but were part of a larger, interconnected community. These zones may have been integral to the broader social and political systems of the Nuragic civilization, serving as hubs for trade, communication, and ritual. The connection between the domestic zones and other parts of the Nuragic landscape remains a tantalizing question. Was there a broader, more complex network of settlements that spanned the island, or were these domestic zones part of a much smaller, localized society? Some scholars have even suggested that the design of these domestic zones may have been influenced by astronomical knowledge, as many Nuragic sites are aligned with specific celestial events, such as solstices or equinoxes. Could the positioning of the homes within the domestic zones have been related to the stars or the movement of the sun? The presence of large, flat stones in certain areas of the sites, arranged in specific patterns, has led some to speculate that these stones might have been used in rituals tied to the cycles of the moon or the sun. Was the placement of these stones purely functional, or did they have a more spiritual or symbolic meaning? The idea that the domestic zones may have been designed with celestial alignments in mind offers a fascinating avenue for exploration, but remains purely speculative for now. Theories about the eventual decline of the Nuragic civilization are similarly speculative. Some suggest that environmental factors, such as drought or soil depletion, may have led to the collapse of the society. Others propose that internal social conflict or external invasion might have brought about the end of the Nuragic civilization. However, the absence of written records means we are left to speculate about the true causes. What happened to the people who once lived in the domestic zones near Santu Antine? Did they simply disappear, or did they evolve into a different cultural group? Could there be more traces of their existence, buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? As we look at the ruins of these ancient dwellings, we are reminded of how little we truly know about the Nuragic people and their society. The mystery of their lives, their beliefs, and their eventual disappearance remains one of the great unsolved puzzles of ancient history. What secrets do the stone walls of the domestic zones near Santu Antine still hold? What can we learn from their architecture, their artifacts, and the patterns of their lives? The answers may still lie hidden beneath the earth, waiting for the right question, the right discovery, to bring them to light. The Nuragic civilization may be gone, but its mysteries remain as captivating as ever. And as we continue to explore these ancient sites, one can't help but wonder, what else is out there, waiting to be uncovered, hidden in the stones and the shadows of history? What mysteries, still buried in the dust, remain to be revealed? Tucked away in the coastal regions of Japan, along the shores of the Naka River, there exists an ancient enigma, a monument of stone that has puzzled historians and archaeologists for centuries. Known as Masuda-no-Iwafune, or Masuda's stone ship, this mysterious giant stone object remains one of Japan's most intriguing archaeological sites. Its appearance, its origins, and its purpose all present a puzzle, one that remains unsolved, shrouded in both myth and history. At first glance, Masuda-no-Iwafune appears to be little more than an enormous, roughly rectangular stone structure, positioned on a hill overlooking the river. The stone, weighing several tons, stands as a solitary monolith, a massive block of rock that seems almost impossibly out of place in the surrounding landscape. The monument's dimensions are extraordinary, measuring roughly 7 meters in length, 4 meters in width, and 3 meters in height. Its surface is rough, unpolished, with jagged edges, a far cry from the smooth, sculpted stones one might expect of human-made structures. The most striking feature, however, is its shape, somewhat like a boat or ship, as if the stone was carefully placed on the earth to emulate a vessel stranded on land. This bizarre configuration, often likened to the form of a ship, raises an immediate question. What could this enormous rock possibly represent, and why was it placed in such a conspicuous location? Was it a marker for something, an offering, or perhaps a form of ancient art? And more importantly, who were the people that created it? Theories about the Masuda-no-Iwafune's origins are numerous, but the lack of written records and clear contextual evidence leaves room for much speculation. The monument is thought to date back to the 4th or 5th century AD, but some suggest that its construction could be even older. It is not uncommon for the discovery of such enigmatic structures to prompt debates about their true age. Could it be part of an even earlier, more obscure cultural tradition? The most widely accepted theory among archaeologists is that Masuda-no-Iwafune was a religious or ceremonial object, possibly linked to the belief systems of ancient Japanese peoples. The structure's positioning and its boat-like shape suggest a possible connection to Japanese mythology, where boats and ships often symbolize journeys to the afterlife. In the belief systems of many ancient cultures, the sea and boats were seen as vehicles that carried souls to the next world. The connection to the afterlife may be the key to understanding Masuda-no-Iwafune's significance. Was this giant stone monument a representation of such a journey? Was it placed here as a marker, or as part of a larger ceremonial landscape tied to death and rebirth? Another theory ties the structure to the broader religious practices of the time. Some have speculated that Masuda-no-Iwafune may have been used in a form of ancestor worship, or could be linked to shamanistic practices. It is believed that early Japanese people viewed the river and surrounding landscape as sacred, and the structure could have served as a focal point for rituals. In some ancient societies, large stone structures were often erected to honor gods or ancestors, marking key locations where important ceremonies took place. Could Masuda-no-Iwafune have been one such sacred monument, used for offerings, prayers, or even as a focal point for community gatherings? Theories about the purpose of the monument range from the practical to the fantastical. Some have suggested that it might have been a kind of boundary marker, demarcating the territory of a particular clan or tribe. Others point to the possibility that it was a site of astronomical observation, with the stone's alignment perhaps indicating certain celestial events or seasons. In many ancient cultures, the movement of the stars and sun was central to daily life, guiding agricultural practices, ritual observances, and even political decisions. Could this stone have served a similar function, marking the passage of time, or perhaps aligning with certain celestial bodies on important days? Its position relative to the river and surrounding landscape might have offered a connection to the natural world, reinforcing the idea that the cosmos and the earth were deeply interconnected. However, the most intriguing and mysterious possibility is that Masuda-no-Iwafune is far older than we can imagine, a remnant of a lost culture or an advanced civilization that existed long before the recorded history of Japan. The stone's massive size and complex placement hint at a level of craftsmanship that suggests a society capable of monumental construction. Was this a part of a forgotten culture, one whose knowledge and achievements were lost over time? Could it be a relic from a civilization that predates the known history of Japan? Could there have been ancient peoples with technologies and knowledge that we are only just beginning to understand? Another layer of intrigue lies in the fact that the monument is located near the Naka River, which flows into the Pacific Ocean. Could this suggest a maritime connection, perhaps a link between Japan and other ancient civilizations, ones known for their seafaring prowess? Some fringe theories suggest that ancient civilizations spread across the Pacific, and that this stone monument might be part of a larger global network of monumental structures. Could it be a remnant of an early Polynesian, Chinese, or even a lost civilization that once traveled the oceans long before the modern era? In addition, some more unconventional theories even suggest that Masuda-no-Iwafune could have a connection to extraterrestrial influence. The stone's inexplicable size and shape, its meticulous positioning, and its ambiguous purpose all have led some theorists to speculate that it might not be of human origin. Could the stone represent some form of advanced technology, perhaps from a culture beyond Earth? While these ideas remain speculative and largely unsupported by mainstream archaeology, the persistent mysteries surrounding Masuda-no-Iwafune continue to fuel such imaginative theories. One of the most puzzling aspects of Masuda-no-Iwafune is the lack of definitive evidence linking it to a specific time period or civilization. Despite its presence for centuries, it has never been definitively dated, nor have any inscriptions or artifacts been discovered in its immediate vicinity that would shed light on its creators. This absence of concrete evidence makes it difficult to understand the true purpose of the monument. Could it have been moved or repurposed over time, with its original significance fading into the annals of forgotten history? As we look upon Masuda-no-Iwafune today, we are left to wonder, what was this massive stone object once meant to convey? Was it a symbol of divine connection, a practical marker, or an offering to forces beyond human comprehension? The fact that it remains standing, weathered by time but steadfast in its position, only deepens the mystery. What knowledge did its builders possess that has been lost to history? What secrets does this colossal stone object still hold, waiting to be discovered? In the quiet stillness of the Naka River Valley, Masuda-no-Iwafune stands as a silent witness to the passage of time, its true purpose hidden beneath the layers of history. Perhaps like so many other ancient monuments, its significance will never be fully understood. But in its mystery, we are reminded of how much we have yet to learn about the past, about the people who shaped it, and about the forces that continue to shape our understanding of the world. What other lost relics of ancient civilizations are still waiting to be uncovered, still waiting to reveal their truths to us? Only time will tell. Deep in the arid desert valleys of the Peruvian highlands, nestled between the mighty peaks of the Andes Mountains, lies an ancient site that has captivated archaeologists and historians for decades: Cerro Sechin. It is a place where time seems to stand still, and where the stones, though weathered by centuries, continue to whisper tales of a long-lost civilization. But within this forgotten landscape, one feature stands out above all others: the carved wall blocks. The site of Cerro Sechin, located in the Casma Valley of northern Peru, is home to a sprawling ceremonial complex that dates back to the early centuries of the first millennium BC. Yet it is not the monumental nature of the site itself that has earned it a place in the annals of archaeological mystery. It is the enigmatic wall blocks that line the temple platforms, their surfaces adorned with intricate carvings that seem to defy easy explanation. At first glance, the carved blocks appear simple enough: rectangular stones arranged in long rows, each one slightly varying in size and shape. However, as the eye moves across the wall, the true depth of their significance becomes apparent. The carvings are not mere decorative motifs. They depict a chilling array of human figures, animal forms, and abstract symbols. Some of the figures seem to be engaged in violent acts, with hands raised in what appear to be ritualized gestures, while others are shown with their faces obscured by strange geometric masks. The imagery, stark and brutal in its clarity, evokes a sense of both awe and unease. The most striking aspect of the wall blocks is the vivid and graphic depictions of violence and decapitation. Some carvings show human figures with their heads severed from their bodies, their torsos pierced with jagged lines or surrounded by stylized representations of blood. These images suggest a culture deeply connected to ritual sacrifice or warfare, but the meaning behind the symbolism remains elusive. Was this a form of artistic expression, or did these carvings serve a more practical or spiritual purpose? What was the message the creators of these images intended to convey? Were they warning others of a harsh, unforgiving world, or were they documenting the brutal realities of life within this society? Cerro Sechin, while stunning in its own right, presents a number of unsettling questions. Chief among them, the identity of the people who built this site. The carvings have been attributed to the Sechin culture, which is believed to have lived in the Casma Valley around 1500 to 1000 BC, long before the rise of the Inca Empire. However, the Sechin culture remains shrouded in mystery. Very little is known about the daily life, beliefs, or rituals of these people. The absence of written records makes it difficult to piece together a complete picture of their world. Archaeologists are left to study the material remnants of their culture: stone tools, pottery, and, most perplexingly, these carved wall blocks. One prominent theory suggests that the site of Cerro Sechin was a place of ceremonial significance, possibly related to death, sacrifice, and the afterlife. The graphic depictions of decapitation, the stylized blood imagery, and the dominance of the human figure in the carvings could indicate that the Sechin people had a deep and possibly unsettling connection to death and its rituals. In many ancient cultures, decapitation was seen as a means of demonstrating power over one's enemies, and the severed head became a symbol of both conquest and the connection between the living and the dead. Could this imagery have been a form of documentation of actual ritual sacrifices or acts of warfare, used to commemorate and display the power of the ruling class? The positioning of the carved stones also raises important questions. The walls are arranged in such a way that they seem to form a procession, a movement from one block to the next, as though telling a story. Some researchers believe that the alignment of the stones and the carving of figures could have been designed to be viewed during specific times of the year, perhaps during solstices or equinoxes, suggesting an understanding of astronomical cycles and the passage of time. Was this monument a way to communicate with the cosmos, to mark the relationship between earthly life and the celestial world? The very placement of the blocks may have been deliberate, aligning with the stars or other natural phenomena, making the site not just a place of ritual, but a cosmic symbol. Yet, as compelling as these explanations may be, they do little to dispel the mystery that clings to the site. Why did the Sechin people choose to depict such violent and graphic imagery? What was the true role of this site in their society? Could it have been a temple to a war god, or perhaps a funerary complex meant to honor the dead? The absence of clear inscriptions and the elusive nature of the carvings leave room for endless speculation, but no definitive answers. Moreover, some scholars have raised an even more intriguing possibility. Could the Sechin site have served as a warning? The graphic depictions of bloodshed, death, and violence might not simply be records of the past, but a symbol for future generations. Was it a way of telling others what could happen should they cross this civilization? A message written in stone, intended to endure through the ages, warning others of the harshness that might await them. A more speculative theory delves into the idea that Sechin, with its monumental carvings, could have been part of a broader network of ancient sites spread across Peru and even beyond, creating a ritualistic and symbolic map that linked distant regions. Some have wondered whether the wall carvings may indicate contact with other advanced civilizations in ancient South America, or even further afield. Could this suggest that the Sechin people were part of a much larger and more intricate web of cultures, bound by shared beliefs or even communication? Could the graphic violence in their carvings be a shared theme across different cultures? Yet, as with so many archaeological sites, the more we uncover about Sechin, the more questions seem to arise. Each new interpretation brings with it more uncertainties. The significance of the carvings and the role of this monument in the broader context of ancient Peruvian history are still largely unknown. What was the true function of these walls? Were they a memorial to the dead, a tribute to war, or something more enigmatic, something that bridged the gap between the living and the divine? And perhaps most importantly, why did the Sechin people choose to carve such hauntingly violent images into the very stones of their civilization? As we stand before the weathered walls of Sechin today, the carvings continue to pose their silent questions. Despite the efforts of archaeologists, anthropologists, and historians, the true meaning of these ancient stones remains locked in the past, waiting for someone to decipher the key to their mystery. Were these symbols a warning, a celebration, or a form of storytelling? Or did they embody something far deeper, an understanding of death and violence that transcended the bounds of time and culture? Perhaps, like so many ancient mysteries, the answers will always remain just out of reach, hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to reveal their secrets. In the quiet corners of Menorca, one of Spain's Balearic Islands, lies a site that has perplexed archaeologists and historians alike for centuries. Known as Escol de Cala Morel, this location is a remarkable intersection of history, mystery, and ancient ritual. Situated on the northwestern coast of the island, the site consists of a series of megalithic tombs that date back to around 1000 BCE, belonging to the Taliadic culture, a civilization that thrived on Menorca and its neighboring islands long before the Romans arrived. As you approach Escol de Cala Morel, the landscape opens up to reveal a series of circular stone structures, their weathered stones standing stoically against the relentless winds of the Mediterranean. These tombs, known as navetas, are characterized by their distinctive beehive shape, with sloping stone walls leading up to a domed roof. They seem like silent sentinels, guarding a forgotten world, a gateway to a past that has long since been lost to time. The navetas at Escol de Cala Morel are built into the hillside, partially obscured by the rugged terrain, giving them a sense of being hidden away from the rest of the world. The design of these tombs is extraordinary. not just for their construction, but for the symbolism they seem to carry. Each tomb was designed to hold the remains of the dead, but the manner in which they were constructed speaks to a deeper purpose, something beyond the simple act of burial. The architecture suggests that these tombs were not only places of rest, but also powerful ritual spaces. Upon closer inspection, the tombs are arranged in clusters, and their orientation seems to follow a deliberate pattern. The strategic placement of these tombs along the hillsides, overlooking the Mediterranean Sea, suggests a connection between the people who built them and the natural world around them. Could these tombs have been aligned with celestial bodies or seasonal cycles? The Taliatic culture is known to have had a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos, so it's not beyond reason to speculate that these tombs might have had an astronomical purpose. Were the people of Escol de Cala trying to connect with the heavens, offering their deceased a final journey across the stars? However, what sets Escol de Cala apart from other megalithic burial sites is the ritualistic significance embedded in its stones. Evidence suggests that the site was used not only for burial but for ceremonial purposes. Archaeologists have uncovered fragments of pottery, weapons, and other artifacts that point to an active ritual life, suggesting that these tombs were part of elaborate ceremonies, possibly involving sacrifices or feasts to honor the dead. The dead may not have simply been buried here. They were likely honored, celebrated, and remembered through rites that were as much about the living as they were about the deceased. Yet, despite the wealth of archaeological findings, there is still so much about Escol de Cala that eludes our understanding. For one, there are few direct records about the Taliatic culture. No written texts survive from the people who built these tombs, and the mystery of their spiritual beliefs and customs only deepens the longer we try to probe it. Who were these people? What did they believe in? And how did they see the world? The lack of written records means that much of our understanding is based on speculation, and even the most well-supported theories are limited by the absence of clear evidence. One of the most compelling and unresolved aspects of the site is the purpose behind the navetas themselves. While it is widely accepted that these structures served as tombs, the precise nature of the burials remains a subject of debate. Were the tombs only for the elites of the Taliatic society, or were they shared spaces for entire communities? Some researchers suggest that the tombs may have served as ancestral repositories, where the bones of multiple generations were kept together, symbolizing the continuity of the community and the passage of time. The presence of large communal burial sites raises questions about the Taliatic understanding of life after death and the connection between the living and the dead. Additionally, the relationship between the Taliatic people and the Mediterranean itself adds another layer of mystery. The island of Minorca, like its neighboring islands, was situated at the crossroads of several ancient trade routes, and the people of Minorca were likely involved in interactions with other Mediterranean civilizations, including the Phoenicians and, later, the Greeks. Did these external influences shape the Taliatic culture, and if so, how? Some have speculated that the sophisticated architecture of the navetas and other Taliatic structures might have been influenced by Mediterranean seafaring peoples, but there is no direct evidence to confirm this theory. Did the Taliatic people incorporate elements from other cultures into their burial practices? Or was the mysterious symbolism of the site something unique to them? Moreover, there is the question of astronomical alignments. While we do not have direct evidence to support the theory, the precise placement of the tombs and their alignment with the horizon raises the possibility that the Taliatic people were not only aware of the stars, but may have used these celestial bodies in their rituals. The alignment of other megalithic sites in the Mediterranean, such as those in the British Isles, with the solstices or specific stars, suggests that the ancient peoples of this region often placed great importance on the heavens. Could the navetas at Escol de Cala have been constructed to align with celestial events, such as the sunrise or the moonrise during important rituals? The ritual significance of the site continues to fascinate scholars, but one of the most puzzling aspects of École de Cala Morel is the relative isolation of the site. Unlike other megalithic cultures, whose tombs and monuments often formed part of larger, interconnected settlements, the navetas at Cala Morel are isolated. The lack of surrounding settlements or other archaeological evidence of daily life leaves us to wonder how the people who built these tombs lived and interacted with their environment. Was this site a sanctuary, reserved only for the most sacred rituals? Or was it part of a larger, now lost community that once thrived on the island? Some more speculative theories have emerged over the years, particularly regarding the nature of the burial rites themselves. The decayed state of many of the skeletal remains found at the site suggests that some of the bodies may have been exposed to the elements for long periods before being placed in the tombs. Was this a form of exposure burial, a practice in which the dead were left outside to decompose before their bones were placed in tombs? This theory raises further questions about the Talaiotic people's beliefs regarding the decomposition of the body and the journey of the soul after death. As with so many ancient sites, École de Cala Morel's true purpose and meaning may remain hidden forever, obscured by the passage of time and the lack of definitive records. What we do know is that the site stands as a testament to a culture rich with mystery, belief, and ritual. The stone tombs, the objects left behind, and the carefully arranged burials all point to a society deeply attuned to the spiritual world, and yet their secrets remain just beyond our grasp. Were these tombs simply a resting place for the dead, or were they gateways to another realm, a space where the living could commune with the ancestors? The placement of the tombs, the imagery on the stones, and the rituals associated with them continue to raise more questions than answers. And as we stand before the weathered stones of École de Cala Morel today, we are reminded that some mysteries may be destined to remain unsolved, leaving us to wonder what secrets the earth still holds beneath its quiet surface. Hidden deep within the rugged mountains of Georgia and the Caucasus, a site of ancient mystery remains relatively unexplored by the wider world. Shaori Fortress, nestled between the soaring peaks and vast forested valleys, seems almost forgotten by time. Its very existence is an enigma, a fortified stronghold whose purpose and origins are shrouded in layers of obscurity. The Shaori Fortress is no ordinary ruin. It's a place of imposing stone walls, ancient fortifications, and an air of forgotten grandeur. As you approach the fortress, the landscape around you begins to shift. The dense Georgian wilderness seems to envelop you, the tall trees thick with centuries of growth, the mountains standing in silent witness to a long-forgotten history. The fortress is perched on a high hill, almost as if it were a sentinel keeping watch over the land. Its walls, constructed from large, irregular blocks of stone, seem to rise organically from the mountainside, a testament to a once great civilization's ingenuity. The outer perimeter consists of high walls with small, circular watchtowers protruding from the corners, each seemingly designed to survey the vast landscape around the fortress. Stepping inside the walls of the fortress, you're immediately struck by the sense of isolation. The place feels both abandoned and timeless, as if it were lost to history for centuries, only to be rediscovered by modern archaeologists in an effort to unravel its secrets. The structures within the fortress compound are sparse, with only remnants of former buildings and a handful of stone steps leading to platforms and terraces overlooking the surrounding valleys. The stillness of the site is almost unsettling. Here, in the shadow of the mountain peaks, the air feels heavy with the weight of untold stories. The Shaori Fortress is believed to have been constructed during the medieval period, likely between the 9th and 13th centuries A.D. It's associated with the ancient kingdoms that once flourished in this part of the Caucasus. kingdoms that, like many others throughout history, have faded into obscurity. Some scholars attribute the fortress to the kingdom of Abkhazia, an independent and powerful state that existed in the region during the Middle Ages. Other theories suggest the fortress could have been built by local Georgian tribes or used as a strategic military outpost by various regional powers over the centuries. The purpose of the Shaori Fortress remains unclear. On one hand, its formidable walls and strategic position suggest it was designed for defense, perhaps as a fortress to protect the surrounding lands from invading forces. The geography of the area is incredibly rugged, making it an ideal location for a stronghold. The high ground allows for control over the surrounding valleys and passes, making the fortress a key vantage point for monitoring enemy movements. Yet, there are aspects of the site that seem to defy this simple explanation. The walls are thick, and the construction is far more complex than the average military outpost. Could it have served a dual purpose, both as a fortress and a center for administration or trade? What's particularly intriguing about Shaori is the lack of concrete historical records detailing its exact role in the region. Unlike many other medieval fortresses, there are no extensive written accounts or inscriptions that shed light on who built it when it was abandoned, or its ultimate fate. The silence of history around the fortress has prompted numerous speculative theories about its true significance. Could this site have once been a hub of power, perhaps part of a larger network of fortresses that spanned the Caucasus? Or was it a lone outpost, built for a specific purpose that we can no longer fully comprehend? One of the most curious features of the Shaori Fortress is the sophistication of its architecture. The stonework is masterfully done, with large blocks fitted together so precisely that even centuries of weathering haven't loosened the stones. The use of arches, vaults, and well-placed windows suggests a highly skilled labor force, one that understood advanced construction techniques. The walls themselves tell a story of strength and endurance, but also of artistry. The stones seem to be arranged in such a way that they aren't just for defense. They may have also served a symbolic function. The way the fortress interacts with the natural landscape seems almost intentional, as if the builders were trying to align the structure with the surrounding mountains, creating a seamless integration between human-made and natural worlds. Could this suggest that the site was more than just a military fort? Could it have been a sacred space designed to honor the earth or the sky? Intriguingly, the name of the fortress, Shaori, does not appear to have any clear etymological connection to other known fortresses or sites in the region. In the languages of the Caucasus, Shaori could be a reference to something deeply local, a word tied to an ancient, possibly even pre-Christian tradition. Some theories suggest that the name itself is linked to an older religious or cultural significance, perhaps tied to the worship of the mountain or the spirits believed to inhabit the land. This idea opens the door to further speculation. Could Shaori Fortress have been a center of religious practice, as well as military defense? Could its builders have seen it as a place where the physical world and the spiritual world converged? Another layer of mystery surrounds the timing of the fortress's abandonment. When did it fall into disuse and why? While some suggest that the collapse of the fortress was due to external military pressures, others point to the possibility that the site was abandoned for more enigmatic reasons. The lack of records makes it difficult to pinpoint a definitive cause. Could it have been abandoned because of a natural disaster, such as an earthquake, that damaged the structures? Or did the political landscape shift so dramatically that the fortress was no longer strategically necessary? Some have proposed that the site was abandoned because its purpose had been fulfilled, and the people who once lived here moved to other locations, leaving Shaori to crumble into the past. The question of who exactly lived in the fortress also remains a mystery. Were the inhabitants of Shaori the same as those in other fortresses of the era? Or was this site occupied by a distinct group of people, perhaps with a unique culture or worldview. Evidence of settlements, artifacts, and pottery could offer some clues, but, like the written records, these too are sparse. Archaeological digs in the area have uncovered fragments of everyday life, tools, weapons, and pottery, but the lack of identifiable inscriptions or personal items has made it difficult to draw concrete conclusions about the people who built and lived here. As with many ancient sites, the mystery of Shaori Fortress is compounded by the natural beauty of its surroundings. The isolation of the site, combined with the breathtaking views from its high vantage points, hints at a purposeful selection of location. Could the landscape itself have held significance for the people who built the fortress? Was it chosen for its spiritual resonance or its symbolic connection to the land? Perhaps the greatest mystery of all is what we still don't know about the fortress. As we stand before the towering walls of Shaori, the questions linger. What secrets have been buried in the stone, in the earth beneath our feet? What stories remain untold, waiting for the right discovery to bring them to light? Shaori Fortress, with its silent walls and hidden histories, is a reminder that there are still countless enigmas scattered across the globe, places where the past waits patiently to be uncovered. Hidden within the sprawling ruins of Teotihuacan, one of the most significant archaeological sites in Mesoamerica, stands a monument that both dazzles and mystifies. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent, also known as Temple of Quetzalcoatl, is an imposing structure that has captivated researchers, archaeologists, and visitors alike for centuries. This pyramid, with its intricate carvings and grand design, is not merely a piece of architecture. It is a cryptic symbol of ancient power, religious fervor, and the enduring mysteries of a long-gone civilization. As you approach the temple, the first thing that strikes you is the sheer scale of the structure. Rising above the ancient city, its distinctive serpent-like motifs adorn the walls, wrapping around the pyramid as though it were guarding something, or perhaps something was guarding it. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent is located at the southeastern corner of Teotihuacan, just off the Avenue of the Dead, a ceremonial path that cuts through the heart of the city. The pyramid itself is smaller than the Grand Pyramid of the Sun or the Pyramid of the Moon, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in mystery. The temple's outer walls are adorned with hundreds of serpentine carvings, which give it its name. These serpents, intricately detailed with feathered bodies, represent the powerful and enigmatic god Quetzalcoatl, often referred to as the Feathered Serpent. In ancient Mesoamerican culture, Quetzalcoatl was associated with a multitude of concepts, including wind, rain, and wisdom, and was often regarded as a creator deity, a force that brought order and knowledge to the world. Quetzalcoatl was a god of immense significance, and his influence permeated the entirety of Teotihuacan, which may have been dedicated to his worship. But what sets the Temple of the Feathered Serpent apart from other structures in Teotihuacan is the combination of artistry and purpose embedded in its construction. The temple is not just a place of worship, it's a monument to ritual and mystery. The pyramid, which once stood covered in vibrant colors and elaborate sculptures, was designed with an advanced knowledge of astronomy and geometry. Its shape, precise alignment with cardinal directions, and the symbolic use of the serpent imagery point to a deeper understanding of both the cosmos and the human condition. Inside the temple, archaeologists have uncovered astonishing findings that deepen the mystery surrounding its function. Human remains, buried with offerings and sometimes in ritualized positions, suggest that the temple was not only a ceremonial center, but also a site for sacrificial practices. Excavations have uncovered remains of sacrificial victims, including individuals of high status, hinting at the importance of these rites. The idea of sacrifice, especially human sacrifice, was integral to Mesoamerican religions, seen as a way to nourish the gods and ensure the balance of the world. But why were some sacrifices so elaborate? Was it a demonstration of power, an act of devotion, or something else entirely? The sheer number of sacrifices discovered within the Temple of the Feathered Serpent has prompted further speculation. A famous find in 2003 revealed a mass grave under the temple's platform, containing over 200 individuals, many with their hands bound and their bodies placed in a manner consistent with ritual offerings. This discovery has sparked debate among scholars, with some suggesting that these were sacrificial victims intended to appease Quetzalcoatl or the gods associated with him. Others speculate that these remains might belong to elite individuals who were buried in elaborate rituals to accompany the gods in the afterlife. But why such a large number, and why at this particular temple? Was there an urgency to appease the gods, or did this practice represent a symbolic act for a society in transition? Hidden within the sprawling ruins of Teotihuacan, one of the most significant archaeological sites in Mesoamerica, stands a monument that both dazzles and mystifies. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent, also known as Temple of Quetzalcoatl, is an imposing structure that has captivated researchers, archaeologists, and visitors alike for centuries. This pyramid, with its intricate carvings and grand design, is not merely a piece of architecture. It is a cryptic symbol of ancient power, religious fervor, and the enduring mysteries of a long-gone civilization. As you approach the temple, the first thing that strikes you is the sheer scale of the structure. Rising above the ancient city, its distinctive serpent-like motifs adorn the walls, wrapping around the pyramid as though it were guarding something, or perhaps something was guarding it. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent is located at the southeastern corner of Teotihuacan, just off the Avenue of the Dead, a ceremonial path that cuts through the heart of the city. The pyramid itself is smaller than the Grand Pyramid of the Sun or the Pyramid of the Moon, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in mystery. The temple's outer walls are adorned with hundreds of serpentine carvings, which give it its name. These serpents, intricately detailed with feathered bodies, represent the powerful and enigmatic god Quetzalcoatl, often referred to as the Feathered Serpent. In ancient Mesoamerican culture, Quetzalcoatl was associated with a multitude of concepts, including wind, rain, and wisdom, and was often regarded as a creator deity, a force that brought order and knowledge to the world. Quetzalcoatl was a god of immense significance, and his influence permeated the entirety of Teotihuacan, which may have been dedicated to his worship. But what sets the Temple of the Feathered Serpent apart from other structures in Teotihuacan is the combination of artistry and purpose embedded in its construction. The temple is not just a place of worship, it's a monument to ritual and mystery. The pyramid, which once stood covered in vibrant colors and elaborate sculptures, was designed with an advanced knowledge of astronomy and geometry. Its shape, precise alignment with cardinal directions, and the symbolic use of the serpent imagery point to a deeper understanding of both the cosmos and the human condition. Inside the temple, archaeologists have uncovered astonishing findings that deepen the mystery surrounding its function. Human remains, buried with offerings and sometimes in ritualized positions, suggest that the temple was not only a ceremonial center, but also a site for sacrificial practices. Excavations have uncovered remains of sacrificial victims, including individuals of high status, hinting at the importance of these rites. The idea of sacrifice, especially human sacrifice, was integral to Mesoamerican religions, seen as a way to nourish the gods and ensure the balance of the world. But why were some sacrifices so elaborate? Was it a demonstration of power, an act of devotion, or something else entirely? The sheer number of sacrifices discovered within the Temple of the Feathered Serpent has prompted further speculation. A famous find in 2003 revealed a mass grave under the temple's platform, containing over 200 individuals, many with their hands bound and their bodies placed in a manner consistent with ritual offerings. This discovery has sparked debate among scholars, with some suggesting that these were sacrificial victims intended to appease Quetzalcoatl or the gods associated with him. Others speculate that these remains might belong to elite individuals who were buried in elaborate rituals to accompany the gods in the afterlife. But why such a large number, and why at this particular temple? Was there an urgency to appease the gods, or did this practice represent a symbolic act for a society in transition? In the remote South Pacific, on the island of Tongatapu, lies an ancient structure so striking and enigmatic that it has puzzled archaeologists and visitors for centuries. The Ha'amanga Amaui Trilithon, a colossal stone archway, stands as one of the most mysterious monuments in the world. Far removed from the well-trodden archaeological sites of Europe or the Middle East, this trilithon, constructed from massive coral limestone blocks, seems to be a relic of a time so distant that even its creators remain elusive in the annals of history. The Ha'amanga Amaui stands proudly at the entrance to a sacred area in the Tongan Kingdom, a site that has long been a focal point of the island's spiritual and cultural life. The trilithon, composed of 3 large stone pillars, 2 vertical and 1 horizontal, creates a dramatic and awe-inspiring gateway. The 2 vertical stones each stand at around 5.8 meters tall, while the horizontal stone is nearly 10 meters in length and weighs over 30 tons. The sheer size and weight of these stones are enough to make one wonder, how did the ancient Polynesians, with their relatively simple tools, manage to transport and position such massive blocks of stone? And for what purpose was this monument constructed? The term trilithon itself derives from the Greek words tri, meaning 3, and lithos, meaning stone, a fitting description for this extraordinary structure. But despite its imposing physical presence and its clear architectural design, there is little consensus among scholars about its origins, its purpose, or the methods used to construct it. Some suggest that the Ha'amanga Amaui is a ceremonial gateway, a marker between the sacred and the mundane, while others speculate that it served as a calendar device, or even as an astronomical observatory. Some theories are grounded in historical and cultural contexts, while others venture into the speculative realm, where the very nature of the monument seems to transcend the understanding of its builders. In Tongan legend, the Ha'amanga Amaui is attributed to the mythical figure Maui, a demigod whose feats of strength and cunning are central to Polynesian mythology. According to one version of the story, Maui, with his divine powers, created the trilithon as a symbol of his strength and a gift to the people of Tonga. The legend states that Maui used his incredible might to lift and place the stones, thus creating a monumental structure that would stand as a testament to his godlike abilities. While such stories are common in many ancient cultures, the challenge of reconciling these myths with the actual construction of the trilithon creates an intriguing puzzle. Could the legend of Maui be a reflection of a deeper, hidden history, one that involves more than just a mythical figure but an understanding of advanced technologies, lost to time? In a region renowned for its seafaring people, the Polynesians, whose navigational expertise is legendary, could the creation of such a stone structure have been part of a broader astronomical tradition? The alignment of the trilithon is, after all, precise, a characteristic that suggests its builders understood the movements of the sun, moon, or stars in ways that remain unclear. The most immediately striking aspect of the Ha'amanga Amaui is its perfect alignment with the solstices. When the sun rises and sets on the summer solstice, its light passes through the trilithon's opening, casting a shadow that marks the beginning of the longest day of the year. This alignment suggests that the structure was not just a monumental feat of engineering, but may have been part of a larger cosmological framework, one that tied the terrestrial to the celestial, the sacred to the everyday. Did the builders of the Ha'amonga Amaui use the trilithon as a way to track time, aligning their agricultural cycles, religious ceremonies, or social rituals with the changing seasons? Some researchers argue that the trilithon's purpose may have been more political than astronomical. In Tonga's early history, the construction of monumental structures was often a way for rulers to assert their power, legitimacy, and control over their people. Could the Ha'amonga Amaui have been built as a symbol of the king's divine mandate, a way to assert not just earthly authority, but a connection to the gods? After all, in Polynesian culture, the power of a ruler was often intertwined with their spiritual authority, and monuments like the trilithon may have served as a physical manifestation of that divine right. However, while these ideas are compelling, they don't fully explain the full mystery of the trilithon. One question that continues to vex archaeologists is the precise dating of the Ha'amonga Amaui. Estimates range from as early as the 11th century AD to as late as the 15th century, but definitive evidence remains elusive. Was the trilithon built by an early Polynesian society with advanced knowledge of engineering and astronomy, or did it come later, possibly influenced by contact with other ancient cultures in the Pacific? The lack of definitive evidence regarding its construction leaves room for speculation, especially when considering the fact that the Polynesians were known to have extensive trade networks and contacts with other ancient civilizations across the Pacific. One particularly intriguing theory suggests that the builders of the Ha'amonga Amaui may have had knowledge of lost technologies or techniques that were passed down through generations but were ultimately lost to time. This idea has been proposed by fringe theorists who believe that ancient cultures, including those of the Polynesians, had access to knowledge or tools that enabled them to build monumental structures with greater precision than we typically associate with the period. While mainstream archaeologists remain skeptical of such theories, the precision of the trilithon's design, its astronomical alignment, and its sheer scale certainly invite the question of how such a feat was accomplished. Adding to the intrigue is the location of the trilithon itself. Situated on the island of Tongatapu, the Ha'amonga Amaui is part of a larger complex of megalithic structures that are scattered across the island and its neighboring islands. Could these structures, built in the same period, represent a larger network of sacred sites or places of spiritual significance? Some researchers have suggested that the Ha'amonga Amaui was part of a ceremonial landscape that stretched across the island, a network of monuments tied together by a complex system of rituals and beliefs. If this is true, then the trilithon would have played a much larger role in the spiritual and social life of the Tongan people than simply being an isolated architectural wonder. The Ha'amonga Amaui trilithon continues to stand as a testament to the ingenuity and mystery of the ancient Polynesian builders. Its massive stones, weathered by centuries of storms, yet still imposing and awe-inspiring. Its purpose, origins, and meaning remain as enigmatic as the legend of Maui himself. Was it a ceremonial gateway, an astronomical observatory, or a symbol of divine rule? Perhaps it was all of these things, or perhaps something more, something that transcends our current understanding of ancient Polynesian culture. The unanswered questions surrounding the Ha'amonga Amaui invite further exploration. As archaeologists continue to examine this monumental structure, they will undoubtedly unearth new insights into the ancient Polynesian world. But for now, the trilithon stands as a symbol of the deep mysteries that remain hidden in the vast ancient reaches of the Pacific, a reminder that some questions, no matter how long they linger, may never be fully answered.